Ladies and gentlemen,
I give you Colin!
Please! No! No, please, no!
What does it matter? Airplane's got him.
It wasn't the airplanes. It was Beauty killed the beast.
You heard it up top. Our long-form series is coming to an end. We've gone bananas. We've escaped the apes. We've talked mean monkeys, and we're wrapping things up here with our bonus episode. It's Peter Jackson's King Kong here on Normies Like Us with your hosts, Colin Hanks.
Nice. Mike Driscoll, I happen to love the theater.
And this is King Cobb.
Oh, there we go.
The king of the jungle.
That's right. King of Skull Island. We're back at it again. Colin mentioned, that we had mentioned we were going to cover this when we did Godzilla and Kong, X-Kong, New Empire, like mentioning the whole Skull Island.
I've been re-listening to some of our old episodes. That's a really funny one because, of course, Jacob comes up with the term "a little scronkus." I would recommend everybody go back and listen to that. But we do say at the end, "Hey, we're about to do all those ape movies. Wouldn't it be a hoot to cover also that Peter Jackson King Kong that we all kind of remember formatively?" So we've finally gotten around to it basically a year after we made that proclamation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there's another interesting timing because today, the 31st of March, is when Godzilla versus Kong released in 2021.
Wow.
So a lot of Kong
we chose this
coalition.
Yeah, we chose this over Kong Skull Island. Have you guys seen? You guys have seen Kong Skull Island as well, right?
Yeah,
that was our introduction to our Kong of the Monarch verse, I guess. Well, what do you think? What do you like better, this movie, King Kong 2005, or Kong Skull Island?
Or the Monsterverse, and then obviously, Mike, you've got a much bigger history of these suit films. Maybe you've even seen like the old original one. I have not.
Yes, the 1933 one, and then there's the one in the 70s with Jeff Bridges and Jessica Lange. Her first film role, Jessica Lange.
Kong's never really been my guy. I think it's because, again, I wanted to eat that big extra large cheeseburger when our 98 Godzilla came out. He just seemed like my dude. I'm just like a normal dude who like that things. But I don't know. I can't really decide between the two. How about you guys?
You go lizard over ape.
I definitely go Godzilla over King Kong.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think there's more good Godzilla movies. I mean, even the last two Godzilla movies are both really good, as we of course talked about Shin Godzilla recently. I like Kong Skull Island a lot too. It's a different movie, like it's a very different movie than this movie, I would say. But I think I like them both, so it is hard to decide.
Skull Island is interesting. Like it's one of the best MonsterVerse movies, probably. Like I do enjoy it. But it's such a
I like it
thing.
more than the Godzilla movie, like the American Godzilla movies of recent years. I think I like Kong Skull Island more than any of the Godzilla ones.
Agreed. And he's kind of America's Godzilla. Again, 1933. This is predating 54 Godzilla. And he messes up trains a lot too. So maybe there was influence on the Godzilla stuff from King Kong.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, but this is very different from Skull Island, that it's a direct love letter. It's like Peter Jackson's favorite movie was the original King Kong.
Yes.
So this is just, he wants to do it bigger and better than ever. And that's kind of how this differs from Skull
And this was
Island.
sort of his, you could call it his blank check movie after The Lord of the Rings, his passion project. What do you want to do? You just made like the greatest trilogy of all time. You have a blank check to make whatever you want. I want to make a 3-hour King Kong remake, essentially, and just go all out with the budget.
Will people like that?
Yeah.
They definitely
we'll find
said,
out.
whatever you say goes, Peach. He was completely in full control after the success of Lord of the Rings. So, but did you guys see this when it came out? What's your history with this movie? Like, obviously I did, but
yeah, I definitely did. Like, as I mentioned probably on other episodes, I had the box set DVD that had all the special features and everything. Of course, Lord of the Rings had a ton of special features, and this sort of continued that with all the behind the scenes stuff and all that stuff that we love. So I saw it in theaters, and then I later bought the DVD, and
Mm.
yeah, so there you go.
And Colin, how about you?
What year is this? It's 2005 or 2008?
2005,
2005.
20 years ago.
2005. So it's 20 years ago. So
Oh, wow.
okay, so I was 16.
Yes, I was 15.
I remember it
16.
being a huge deal. I remember my dad being bugged that I was going with friends instead of like seeing it with the family. I remember sort of like us all being like, it's going to be like kind of a huge deal. Did you guys hear it's long? Yeah, I heard it's long. Like maybe one of the first 3-hour films that I saw actually in theaters, not as just a rental or whatever. And I was maybe at my brattiest as a young man. I kind of remember leaving this film and having a lot of issues with it and being like, I don't really get it, or like, why was that about like the depression? Like, why wasn't it about like, just like shooting guns at like a monkey or something? So I was very excited to rewatch it. A film I have not really rewatched that much. I did not have this on DVD, Jacob. I do
No,
now.
I haven't seen it in probably about 20 years, maybe like 18 years. I don't know when the last time I saw it, but I did own the DVD, but I wasn't like rewatching it all the time. But it definitely was a movie I remembered. Like as soon as I started watching it, I remembered so much about it, even though I hadn't seen it in 18 years. So it all came rushing back. And yeah, it's. I think at the time I thought, oh, it's pretty long, but there's stuff I like in it, and so we'll see if that holds up today.
Mike,
Yeah.
what's your relationship to this thing?
So I was a huge Lord of the Rings head. That's probably why I'm in LA. Obviously, I love the special features. I've been watching like Movie Magic on Discovery Channel since could form thoughts in my head. Like I've always been fascinated with behind the scenes and like tokusatsu stuff, like Colin was saying. So Peter Jackson was really, really important at this time period for me. I loved the movie. When I first saw it, I got the extended DVD, and then I got like a really high detail what it was doing, like these statues. So I have Godzilla fighting the V-Rex, as they're called in this, in like really high detail that Weta put out.
Godzilla fighting you?
Sorry, Kong fighting a T-Rex from this movie,
Right.
and it was just
Kingzilla, God Kong. They're
yeah,
all the same.
they're all the same. But yeah, I like this movie a lot. I forgot how long it was in runtime, especially the
I
extended.
remember it.
So
Yeah, I remembered it because that's like the main thing I remember about this movie is that it's really long. Of course, the Lord of the Rings extended editions are very long as well. And I did watch the extended cut of this movie for this podcast. It's 3 hours and 20 minutes. I think the theatrical cut is like 3 hours and 7 minutes, so it's a little
Correct.
bit longer. Did you guys watch the extended cut or the theatrical cut?
we went the distance. I think we all watched the extended cut. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know what was added necessarily from the theatrical cut. I have to look that up or something, but maybe
So
you know. Mike.
kind of wasn't shocked to see any new scenes or anything. So I was also kind of curious about what was different, Jacob. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
I
they
have
added some more longer action during the action scenes and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I have some info on that when we kind of jump into it. But yeah, it's really 13 minutes isn't that significant considering it's already 3 hours and 7 minutes, but
Right.
Yeah.
but yeah, but I like this movie a lot when it first came out, and then it was just, as we said, Andy Serkis is kind of the linchpin to this whole apes thing in a way, and so
Yeah,
we're going
love
back to
him
his
as
first
the cook.
ape outing.
His
That's
famous
right,
role,
that's all
the
he
cook.
is, of course.
His first
Love
like
me.
in front of camera role too, yeah. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to do a quiz at the end. Mike's got another quiz for us. Again, this is our bonus wrapping up our long form series. We're going to talk about what our next one is going forward at the end of this as well. So I say, let's jump in. This is going to be a big
I'm
one.
excited.
A 3-hour episode, of course.
all aboard the venture. Yeah, let's do it. Is this the
That's
Moving
right.
Pictures Pod?
3-hour tour.
We're back here on Normies Like Us, where we're talking about the big boy himself. Ooh, ah. No, it's not Tarzan. No, it's not Mighty Joe Young. No, it's not Dunstan Checks In. It's the king. It's Kong. And this one is allowed to be called King Kong. We've talked about in the past the odd, weird legal thing now where he is Kong in those films.
Skull
Yes.
Yeah.
The irony of the monarch version of Kong being demonarched.
Well, he can't be the king because Godzilla's the king of all monsters.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's what it must be.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That
We could
title
only
is
have
not
one
vacant.
king.
Fair,
That's right.
fair. But yeah, this is basically, we said Peter Jackson's blank check movie. He loves the original King Kong. I didn't watch the original until after I watched this movie. Like I'd never seen the entirety of the original. Just it didn't have Godzilla in it, you know.
Yeah, so why would you care, Mike? I've
But
never
I
seen the
did go
original as
back.
well, but obviously this is the return of our guy. We've talked 6 Peter Jackson films before. We did The Hobbit and
Wow,
Lord of the Rings as one of our long form series. So, but
that's
reminder,
right.
you guys like the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this was the height of his power in movie making. Really, coming off of Lord of the Rings, he was, a huge star, sort of in the filmmaking world. And then he followed up with this, and yeah, I was a big Peter Jackson fan in the 2000s. Um, he's done less recently, but I did like that Beatles documentary that he made recently.
Oh yeah.
Big fan of that. And of course the Hobbit movies. But yeah, we love Peter Jackson and his early stuff too. The Frighteners, of course, and then
Mm-hmm.
his really early like New Zealand stuff where he was doing like crazy horror movies and
Oh,
Meet the
Mike, when we
Freebles.
eventually, I was about to say, when we do the
yeah,
eventual fill in our Muppets long form series, Meet the Freebles will be our bonus, right?
yes,
Absolutely.
yes,
Yeah, heavenly creatures, all that kind of stuff.
Heavenly
And
Creatures.
yeah, I love Peter Jackson's work, especially this time period. Return of the King won all of the Oscars ever.
Yeah,
So he really could do anything he wanted with this, and this was his favorite movie. He would do like stop motion when he was a kid. Like he was really inspired by the special effects, and that's why like wedded digital and like he's very interested in the special effects side of filmmaking too. And that's
yeah.
why he kind of started that whole outfit that did all the costumes for Lord of the Rings, the digital effects, etc., to make Gollum, that kind of thing.
Makes a lot of sense. And imagine, having the opportunity to remake your favorite film from 1933 for the modern audience and just making it this huge 3-hour epic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is his Nosferatu to Robert Eggers. He's been thinking
yeah.
about it his
Has
whole
it,
life.
and we love Nosferatu, obviously, but has it ever worked? The Gus Van Sant literally redoes Psycho, the Steven
Mm,
Spielberg doing Always, which is one of his bigger bombs, which is a remake of a black and white film. You see it time and time again. Does
Hmm.
it ever work?
sometimes.
Sometimes, like if you look at, say, Godzilla minus one is sort of a remake of 54. It's very different though, and I guess in that sense, I watched the original also alongside this one just to kind of compare, and there are
Wow.
changes to the story similar to what minus one did that I think kind of improve and update the narrative from 33, even though that's a classic, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess we'll have to get into it, but I also watched the 4 hours of special features of them making this movie to kind of
Wow.
That's
it took me
awesome,
back
Mike.
to a time of when we talk about there's no DVD features on stuff anymore, but I tracked it down on YouTube and watched it.
I haven't seen the original. Has anyone seen the 76 version at all?
I
I've
have.
never.
Mm.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Jessica
It's
Lange, big
fine.
fan of her in American Horror Story, obviously, but that was her first film role, just as the Ann Darrow character, and then you had Jeff Bridges. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to check that out at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
big
never
steal to
watched that
me
one.
was Dino De Laurentiis, maniac Italian producer, made that film, and he's the guy who did like a lot of early Arnold Schwarzenegger films. So it has those cool creature feature vibes, but
Hmm.
I don't think it's a film made by cocaine.
Ran, we mentioned
Sure,
Rick Baker
sure,
too worked on some of the effects for that, and
absolutely.
the
I
other
believe
Planet of the Apes, the bad one.
slipped on the costume and maybe even played King
Hmm.
Kong a couple times in that film. Yeah.
Yep, he was wearing the costume in that. So very, interesting thing with King Kong. We've only kind of gotten three of them, and you guys haven't seen the original. I say it's worth the exercise, especially after watching this, because there are a lot of things. Peter Jackson's he's playing the hits. He's playing all the major beats.
Right.
He's doing direct homages, and then he's just kind of extending them and embellishing upon it all.
Well,
And
even
you know,
the characters, like you have Ann Darrow, you have Jack Driscoll, but he's kind of changed a little bit in this version, where he was like, I think the captain of the
he's
ship
the
or
first
something. In the,
mate, yeah,
okay.
and now he's the writer of the screenplay.
Yeah. And
Um,
obviously, they add a lot of characters and different things in this version. Did you guys know? And I don't. This might ruin part of your quiz, so maybe I shouldn't
no,
say
go
it.
for it.
But when this movie was made, it was the highest budget film of all time at that point.
Wow.
Um, do you know what number it is now? 20 years later, in terms of
Oh
budget, because so
boy.
many have surpassed it in budget.
Sixth?
Oh yeah.
60th. It's the
Whoa.
Wow.
60th now. So 59 movies have surpassed it in budget, but in 2005 it was the highest biggest budget movie of all time at that
That's
point. So I think
crazy.
at like
And this is
yeah,
definitely
205 million, I think.
yeah. That's definitely this is one for them, one for me. Which weirdly, Lord of the Rings was kind of like three for me, and then now one more for me for him. But
Three for
Yeah.
me, and thank God it worked.
yeah,
It's one for
yeah,
him, but also this movie was a box office success.
true.
So
That's interesting.
let me look at the numbers here. It grossed worldwide 556 million on a budget of 205 million.
Okay.
218 million in America. So
And this
it
is this a
yeah.
dumb thing to ask? Those Lord of the Rings films and this exist in a world pre the $1 billion break, right? Like that's not necessarily
Mm,
what these films were chasing. Did the Lord of the Rings films make $1 billion?
maybe combined. I'll
Uh,
take a look.
I'm not sure about that, but I was just looking at in terms of budget. Do you know what the highest budget movie now of all time
Oh, it's the Electric
would be?
State, of course, is it?
Well, I have a fun fact about the Electric State. The
Please.
Electric State is the 13th highest budget movie of all
Wow,
time.
that's crazy.
But the highest is Star Wars Force Awakens with
Oh,
$447 million budget.
$447 million.
Yeah. Again, King Kong
Wow.
is 207 million, which was the highest grossing in 2000 or the highest budget in 2005. Now is the 60th highest. So it's 59 movies have surpassed it, including the Electric State at $320 million
Oh my gosh.
budget
Oh
for
Wow.
my
that
gosh.
Netflix movie.
That is crazy. Look at Lord of the Rings. It's saying Lifetime Fellowship made $1 billion, but
If you
that
look
could be
at
over
adjusted
re-releases
for
and stuff.
inflation
Yeah.
or
Sure.
yeah.
But I'm not a
Guess
box
that
office
makes sense.
statistician. I'm here to talk about the great ape himself, King
That's
Kong.
right.
That's
But
right.
yeah, so most expensive movie of its era, like Jacob said, because Peter Jackson was basically the king of movie making at this point. There's like he could do
Yeah.
no wrong. Yeah, and that's
So it was a
you know.
bit of a gamble in terms of that budget, but it worked out because it did. I mean, it's not the high. I think it was like the fourth or fifth highest grossing movie of 2005, but it definitely made
Mm.
a profit. So it was a
I'm
box office success.
surprised to hear that. Just to roll into kind of first reactions before we go through the plot here.
Mm,
I already said when I saw this the first time, to me, I was like, "Whoa, that was weird and very long." This time again, going into an open mind, I am shocked here it made money because kind of my reaction was very similar to, "Oh, I'm still not super positive on this movie." It has a lot of very noticeable flaws to me, but also stuff that I do think is fun and sort of
Yeah.
kitschy as like a documentation of the time it was made in, if that makes sense. But
hmm
how about you guys?
It was critically a mixed bag, really. It got an 80. It has an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, so pretty high, but not super high. So it wasn't amazing, but some people liked it, some people didn't like it as much, and yeah, it was kind of long. I think at the time there was stuff I liked. I didn't think it was like my favorite movie of all time, but I did like a lot of it.
Mm.
Um,
How
yeah.
did you feel on this viewing?
I liked it. There's a lot. Again, I would maybe cut some things and make it a little shorter, maybe under 3 hours. But
Not add to an extended cut,
no, but there's
the
a
first
lot
ever
going for
edited
it.
cut.
hmm
Yeah. There's a couple, issues that I have with it, which we'll get into. In particular, maybe the portrayal of the natives of Skull Island, which is problematic, maybe to say the least.
I think that's bad. I think casting kind of all over the board is not particularly up to snuff, but
I like the casting for the
well,
most part.
let's
Yeah.
debate it then. Mike, come in here.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on this thing at
Yeah.
first glance after a long time?
So yeah, there was a long period, right when Lord of the Rings came out, where I kept thinking, "Oh, more is more, and I want more." And then even when this came out, I'm like, "This is a little bit too long," even back then. And rewatching this, I think there is a potentially there's an above average, like very good to maybe great movie within this. There's just too much bloat, and there's a lot of, if you could trim most of the fat, you might have a pretty well paced, fun action
Yeah.
adventure movie. It's just too big.
I think
Um,
like
yeah.
Peter Jackson, he just needs to be reined in a little bit, because his instinct is always just to go as big as possible. And even Lord of the Rings, obviously, we're all big Lord of the Rings fans, so we love the extended cuts. Give us as much as you can. But for maybe a normal moviegoer, a shorter cut of them might have been a little better.
Changes Fellowship to like a 4-hour film, I believe. Is that correct?
Fellowship
Yeah,
really?
probably.
And then Jacob, how long is the Beatles stuff?
The Beatles is 3 episodes on Disney Plus that are all like. Let me look at that. Let me look that
6
up.
hours each?
Right, but the when you think of Lord of the Rings, it's like he's condensing a novel into like he's barely fitting the prerequisite amount of information into 3-hour movies, right? This is
Right.
taking a
I mean,
pretty
that's
simple story and stretching it. It's the opposite thing. There's not enough material to justify within the plot to justify its runtime is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Beatles Get Back is 3 episodes on Disney Plus, like I said, all of them over 2 hours, approaching 3 hours, 468 minutes total for the entire runtime.
Okay.
But I loved it. I think it's a great watch. You see a lot of behind the scenes footage of the Beatles. Basically, he just had all this footage of them working on their last album, Abbey Road, and never before seen footage, and they sort of updated it and
Colorized it.
refurbished colorized it, and it's incredible. If you're any kind of Beatles fan, it's definitely a must watch to me.
Abbey Road Extended Edition.
Yeah,
We get a lot of Beatles in this movie too. A lot of Beatles, bugs,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
giant Beatles.
And you need to
Shot
get
with
back.
Tommy guns.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
do need to get back. It's back.
Yeah, but let's run through the cast because I like the cast for the most part. Honestly, I think it's one of my
I like the
favorite
cast too.
things. So we have Naomi
Yeah.
Watts as Ann Darrow, Jack Black as Carl
Yes.
Denham, Adrian Brody as Jack Driscoll, Colin Hanks as Preston, Thomas Kretschmann as Captain Engelhorn, Jamie Bell as Jimmy, Evan Park is Benjamin Hayes, Mr. Hayes, Lobo Chan is Choi, Kyle Chandler, who also fought King Kong and Godzilla, is Bruce Baxter, and Andy
Right.
Serkis is
Their ice
Kong
hearts.
and Lumpy. Yes,
Can't lose.
can't lose.
Caesar is here.
Lumpy,
Caesar
my
is
favorite
here.
character.
Lumpy, of course.
Yeah, so what's working and
Yeah,
not working for you guys with the cast?
I like the cast. Yeah, Colin, you tell me what you don't like.
There's people in this movie who kind of bum me out across the board.
Okay.
Naomi Watts is a person who, when I look at her career, I am like, you need to fire your agent immediately. And that she makes a lot of the right choices,
Yeah.
but they just never work. She was one of my boy David Lynch's #1, so I've always had a soft spot for her. She
Mulholland
dated
Drive.
Heath Ledger, which like meant the world to me when I was a kid. Obviously didn't have the kid with him like Michelle Williams, but I think was like the last big girlfriend before they got together. I've always liked her. She's one of those people who like her Game of Thrones spinoff didn't go forward. Remember when that was like a big thing on HBO?
Yeah, they made a pilot and they decided not to move forward after the pilot. But I think that's more due to just I don't think it was her casting necessarily that caused it. It just wasn't
No,
working. It was going to be
she
a
just has a lot of
prequel
bad luck.
about like the old days of the North, basically, like thousands of years or something before Game of Thrones. It just wasn't working, I think, as a story, and they went with House of the Dragon instead.
Well, an egg and dunk. I mean, the slap in the
Yeah.
face is you can't even say like, well, it just doesn't work to do more Game of Thrones. People are like, no, we love other Game of Thrones. Your show didn't work, which I feel like
Yeah.
she can't really shake. She's in a lot of made-for-TV movies now, or like direct to streaming.
Yeah, recently she hasn't been in much that I've seen, but I've always liked Naomi Watts. I think she's a good
Yeah.
actress and I like her and stuff. But since like the 2000s, I don't know what she's really been doing. Yeah, but I like her as an
What's she been
actress
up
for
to?
sure.
I think her accent's falling apart in this film. She's not my biggest problem. I just don't think she should be leading this movie.
Fair. I mean, I always, even from when I first saw this, I always thought she's pretty likable and charming in this role. So I'm pro Watts as Faye Ray's Ann Darrow. I think she's fine
I'm
in
pro
this. I think
Watts.
she's
Classic film actress.
fun. She's
All right, I've
doing
got-
that hamming it up. Yeah.
Oh, and maybe the script is intentionally kind of letting people down because it is kind of hard to satirize that sort of like, gee whiz, kid, we're making a real moving picture without coming off a little too hammy. But I got two more that I want you guys' opinions on. Jack Black.
Whoa.
I love Jack Black in this movie. He's probably my
Wow.
favorite
Same.
part
I love
of
him
the
in
movie.
this.
Wow.
Yeah, he's
I just love his
dastardly.
like
He's a villain.
grifter director role where he's like obviously he's doing sort of an Orson Welles spin on Orson Welles, but he's so he just wants to get his movie made by whatever means possible, no matter how, morally gray the decisions he makes. And he is kind of a villain, but at the same time I identify with him because he's like he just wants to get his movie made,
We're gonna finish this film for Mike and donate the proceeds to his wife and children.
Yeah.
Just lie at
He's
me,
just a grifter. He's
constantly saying
Yeah.
$2,000 to people. It's so fantastic. Here's
Yeah.
the thing. He
So
has a
what's
lot
not
of
working?
goodwill now. I've come around to him, but there was a time in my life where I would tell people in the 2000s, like, Jack Black is my least favorite actor because he just does the same thing. And I think around the time of Tropic Thunder, when he was taking a role that truly like satirized like a movie he would make, which was like The Big Fatties or whatever it was called, which is obviously like an Eddie Murphy parody, right?
Clumps.
With the clumps, but
Nutty Professor.
it was to the level of like, and Jack Black like doesn't try. It is a piece of shit in these movies where he's always the big fat slob who whatever. And this felt like him trying to do something different, and I just remember not believing in it. So
2000s Jack Black. I think you had two versions of Jack Black where you had the very over the top comedy Jack Black, and then you have the more restrained, dramatic Jack Black where he would do these different roles. He did like The Holiday, which is like a rom-com.
Right.
He would take some more dramatic or more serious roles at times to show that he has the range, but he is obviously most known for his comedy and is very over the top.
No, in fact, Jacob, he's not. What he's most known for is starring in video game adaptations. That is what he does. He is Bowser, and this is a commitment we are putting on this podcast right now. We are doing this as the last episode in March because in April we'll be taking a trip to the world of Minecraft to do an episode, of course. We have to.
I will say that movie looks like the worst piece of shit that I've ever seen.
Worse than Borderlands, the last video game movie he did? How dare you?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Damn.
Well, it's an insult to Minecraft everywhere. I mean, as someone who's played probably thousands of hours of Minecraft in his life, I have to say I'm not looking forward to that movie at all.
Well, Jables be Jabelin, and I think he's doing these game projects because his kids like video games. That's my speculation.
He had the Jubbalo. What were they called,
Jables.
Mike?
What's Jables?
Jables.
Well, of course, Tenacious D. I was a Tenacious D fan in the 2000s. I was like, they do these parody
School of Rock. This is right after School of Rock. Come on.
I was not a fan of
School of Rock. Oh, I love School of Rock.
Wow, I love School of Rock. Okay,
Mike
so maybe
White?
it's not a Jack Black guy.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
And here's my number 3. Here's my last one. Somebody I am a fan of, but again, this role. Jamie Bell. Billy Elliot himself, a little dancing Irish boy, like a little fancy dancing Irish boy. Tintin himself, little
Jamie
Dutch
Bell.
investigator or whatever he is.
I was thinking
Has
like
to play a kid who they say like he was crazier than the animals when we found him.
Yeah.
I was thinking when I was watching, I was like, if they made this movie today, probably Tom Holland would play that role. Like he was 2000s Tom Holland, maybe.
That's a great way to look at him, Jacob.
If I was,
he really missed out by not doing a Spider-Man, but of course he was the Thing in Fan 4 Stick, the greatest.
Oh yeah,
that's right. And his brother would abuse him and then say it's clobbering time and beat him up.
Guess what, nerd?
Yeah.
It's clobbering time. No.
Oh wow.
No.
I'll give you this one because if I was creating a list of subplots to be cut, Jimmy's first up on my list.
Does it ever come up that he has this wild spirit in him? All this stuff is set up of like, you got to understand, his arm was broken. His backstory, it's probably too sad to tell you, but I'm going to hint at a bunch of things, and he's crazy, and he's this. And then basically there's a couple scenes where guys like, hey, you should like read a book and be nice. And he's like, I do read books. And they're like, oh, that's nice. Good for you.
I have Heart of Darkness right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the problem maybe is that there's too many characters and they could have condensed some of the roles. I mean, you have, the ship's captain, you have the first mate, you have Jimmy, you have a bunch of other crew members, you have Colin Hanks, you have the sound guy, the camera guy. Like these are all
Well, hold on.
characters.
Herb and
Yeah.
Mike.
So
yeah.
not one I have an issue with, but we certainly the one we have to talk about the most. A new Academy Award winner, Adrian Brody.
2-time
Mm.
Oscar winner, Adrian Brody.
What was the first win?
I'm not
Pianist?
The Pianist,
That's
directed by Roman Polanski.
Oh, jeez.
He does the
Colin's
ist
favorite director.
movies. He does the Pianist and he does the
He does
Brutalist.
Holocaust movies,
The
both
Communist.
about Holocaust survivors. He's won
Right.
2 Oscars 20 years apart, and I'm not a huge Adrian Brody fan, actually, but he does have some good roles. But I think I don't know if I said this on the podcast or just off the podcast, but I read this online. I thought it was very funny. He's the Eli Manning of actors, in that he won 2 trophies somehow, but in between those, he threw a lot of interceptions.
Yes,
Wow.
blocking superior players from getting their trophies by just being like,
Yeah.
I just showed up, I was in the best thing.
Sometimes
Right.
it breaks your way.
Notorious
Again, he has 2
villain
Oscars.
Roman Polanski to get my first one.
Right, but in between those 2 Oscars, he's made a lot of bad movies. He's in a lot of straight to DVD garbage.
He got a little
Yeah.
saved by Wes Anderson for a bit there.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
he's in
Dark
Wes Anderson
Union.
movies and bad movies. Like that's his recent output for the most part.
Which is kind of Edward Norton's output. So
Yeah,
Fair.
right. And also there's just some off the screen stuff I don't like about him. Like he's had some controversies in the past that I've like, maybe he's not like a super great guy. I don't know, but
can I ask you guys a question? Just I don't know if you've seen The Brutalist. I have not. Have
Me
any
neither.
of you guys?
I don't
seen
watch 3-hour movies,
no,
Colin.
another 3
No.
hour and a half movie.
it?
Yeah.
Mike, thank you. But what was the thing that was AI? Like what bugged them? There was like
So-
a shot that was like a generative image.
I'll tell you that, and I think it's a little overblown, the controversy. The AI that they used, for one, they used there's 2 different things. One, he has a Hungarian accent in the movie, and they used AI tool to tweak his accent like very minorly
Oh, that's insane.
within the movie. Yeah, to make it more Hungarian, I guess.
Well, I
I'm
think
really
that's
sure.
not overblown, Jake.
Well,
I don't think you're allowed to win Best Actor if they're like, we used a robot to make
It was not through the
Yes.
whole movie. It was like maybe like 1 or 2 parts, like 1 or 2
Okay.
lines or something. And then the
Right.
other AI was they used AI generated images for some like background blueprints because he's an architect in the movie, and so they used some AI imagery.
Sure.
And I'm anti AI, but I think from what I read, I think it's a little bit overblown to say like, oh, you have to invalidate his entire acting performance because
You do. I agree.
but it's like, you know, we use computer tools to like tweak sound and performance all the time, like in post-production,
Yeah.
right? So
Sure.
you know, how is it that much different? I don't know, but
Like
so it wasn't generative AI with the accent stuff. It was AI tools essentially.
Right. And I mean, even in these movies in Lord of the Rings, they were using forms of AI. Like Weta created a program called Massive that would be the AI scripting for all their thousands of people in battle scenes, and they're like CG
Right.
animals and stuff that would kind of iterate pathing. So it's like AI, it's such a broad term anyway, but you know, as far
Yeah.
as the Adrian
But I
Brody
still need to
of
see
it,
the Brutalist. Yeah.
yeah, I do need to see it, but I like his Jack Driscoll. I like what works for me in this movie is we in the fandom we call it the 3Ds. Okay, Darrow, Denham, and Driscoll. That's when it's
Oh,
working.
boy.
Okay.
I do like, yes, I agree with that. He's the screenwriter. He's sort of the nerdy screenwriter who gets the girl in the end. I love the moment of Ann Darrow mistaking the sound guy for him, and that's something that always stuck with me.
I
from
love
the
how you
first time
Your
I
capture
watched
the
it.
voice
words.
of the people.
Yes, that's what it is. You capture the voice of I guess I do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff's good.
Yeah, Adrian Brody, just two things off the screen that I was like a little questionable on. One, when he won his first Oscar, he had the famous moment where he kissed Halle Berry right on stage without her consent. You know, she didn't know that he was
Oh,
going to
no.
do that. And so that was
Yeah.
sort of a
Why would you do
questionable
that?
thing. And then he
You
has
know what?
very,
You know what I'm gonna do? I'll just get up there and kiss whoever's giving me that trophy. That'll go over well.
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And so she's sort of, you know, made fun of in the past, but also said like, no, I had no idea he was going to do that. It's a little questionable to just
Weird.
kiss someone like that. And then also he was on SNL once and did a very questionable Jamaican character that I think
Oh.
A lot.
Okay.
that they did not know he was going to do, and
Rastaman.
it's just
Okay.
other things I've seen from him off screen where he's sort of the stereotype of like the pretentious actor who like he makes
Mhm.
art that's like the worst art I've ever seen that he thinks is like,
But
oh,
then,
this is such great
so
art.
so you
Yeah.
do that, and then you make this movie because you're working with a guy who just won Best Director, Best Picture. Like it's about making movies. I totally understand that.
Mhm.
But then that scene where he's walking shirtless by her on the boat, and he's the skinniest, least looking action star ever. Do you think that's why he then goes, "Well, I got to do a Predators or something where somebody
Yeah, and
sees
get
these
ripped for
big
Predator.
juicy arms"?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
Glad he
that's
did
kind of
that.
his role. Like he plays the nerdy, tweety type, right? In a lot
You're
of
some
roles. Like,
book loving tweety loser nerd.
That's
yeah.
exactly what she says.
And so this is kind of like, yeah, inverting that where it's like, yeah, she falls for the writer who ends up being the action star on the island. And then you have Kyle Chandler, the actual actor who
I think he's great in
um
this too.
I love Kyle
He's
Chandler in this
great.
too, yeah.
He's
And he
always
does have
good.
his moment in the end too where he comes back. But Kyle Chandler, Clear Eyes, Full Hearts Can't Lose, Coach Taylor, he'll
I know
always
how
be
Predators
iconic to me
move.
for that.
Yeah.
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 Millie Bobby Brown's father. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Um, but that's kind of the core of it. The difference is like in the original one, it was always, oh, I'm Carl Denham and I'm going to go make a picture. See, I'm not going to tell you where we're going. See, but we're going to make a picture. So there was always like that framing device of going to make a movie in an exotic location
Yeah.
that's very mysterious.
But I
And
love the setup of this where he's screening his movie for the financiers and he's like, look, I need money. We're going to go to this island and like that no one's ever been to and all that. And they're like,
But
that
on Island,
sounds
you're supposed to shoot
insane
this
to
on the
me.
back lot, on the sound
Yeah.
that's right.
stages.
And the whole thing with running from the police, the boat taking off just in time, and he's promising people money and everything. And he basically tricks Adrian Brody into staying on the ship so that he can finish the script and all that stuff. I think the setup for this movie is pretty good. Like I love all the like
Which
Hmm.
hour
yeah.
is your favorite hour? Because essentially it breaks into three of the setup to Skull Island, the adventure
Yes.
on Skull Island, the return to New York.
Correct.
I think the first hour is actually my favorite. And then the second hour
agree.
is my second favorite, and the third hour is my least favorite.
I
I
agree.
really,
Yeah.
I think Skull Island is bloat. I could take hour 1 and hour 3.
Really?
To
See,
me,
I
but
think
we'll
I
get
think
there.
it's not as good when they get back to New York. And I think that's where you could have taken some of the bloat out of the New
There's
York escapades.
potentially in both, but this beginning stuff, I
Yeah.
agree. It does work for me. There are a lot of callbacks to the original, where like Carl Denham finds Andero stealing an apple, and he's like, "Here's a nickel. Shut up. Get out of here." You know? Did you
Yeah.
drop this line though? That was new for this. It kind of made it better. But that whole thing and getting the band together and seeing uh, Jack Black being a swindler, it starts off as funny, but as the movie goes on, it's like this guy might just be a bad guy.
I
Yeah.
like the character yelling at the financier, calling him an idiot, saying you wouldn't have asked Cecil DeMille about boobs. I think that's very funny.
Yeah.
I like the resourcefulness because the lines here are good where he says, Colin, give me that glass. And he says, no, you wouldn't like it. There's no alcohol in it. And he goes, hey, come on. You got stuff to learn. And he puts the glass up to the wall and he's listening and then he runs off and takes off. And it is very madcap, like you guys are saying. And
Yeah.
Jacob saying the Orson Welles comment has unlocked a lot
Mm.
more of it for me here. Now I
Yeah.
was really not picking up on that, but
I think that's
helping me a lot.
yeah, that's something Jack Black like watched a lot of footage of Orson Welles and a lot of like older footage, like older Orson Welles when he's old and fat and drunk all the time and
Ah,
doing
The greatest
advertisements for
champagne
green
and
teas and stuff. Yeah, but he's like, this is
Orson,
like a young Citizen Kane, era Orson Welles, where he's just, he wants to make pictures, and
but
he's
I'll
gonna do
kill
whatever he can for
you
the picture.
if you don't
Yeah,
let me make the picture I want to make. Like this
right.
is life or death.
Yeah, and he's like swindling people out of money. Like he just wants to get it made no matter what. He has this great idea to go to this uncharted island and get footage that like no one's ever seen before. Yeah, I really like this character, and he is like, yeah, he gets more and more ominous. Where he's like, when they're trekking through the jungle, he's just like, oh, we gotta protect the camera. Like we're getting these great shots. people are dying left and right, but look, the camera, that's what's important,
And by the
Yes.
end of the film, he captures and makes a beast a slave, basically, right? There's all that
Yeah.
connotations.
And there's a line that says he has the uncanny ability to destroy everything he loves, or something like that. I think Jack Driscoll says at one
Yes.
point.
Sure.
So I've never read him this much as insidious as in this viewing, and I think that adds a lot to it. This guy who's just willing to, at any cost, like the show must go on, but it's like,
Yeah.
there should be a
I mean,
line,
he's
my
essentially
guy.
the reason that anyone died in this movie was all because of him. Like, if they
Oh,
never
God.
go to this island,
Up.
and then he brings Kong back to New York, causes a whole bunch of chaos there, and then he's like, it was Beauty killed the beast. And it's like, I
Was
think
Beauty.
you killed the beast by bringing him
Yeah,
back to New York.
Even
but okay.
that, yeah, not to jump too far ahead,
Yeah.
but when he's just, I'm going to step in and deliver a faux heady line to make me look important.
Right.
It's like he can't.
Well,
Not.
yeah, what great plays on Broadway have ever had the guy who directs a play come out and go like, "You'll see things you've never seen," other than like the Ringling Brothers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right. True.
He's like,
But
we
yeah.
went to this island and a bunch of people died, but at least we can take this beast back and make money by showing him off as this like oddity, right?
Yeah, he's just constantly losing. Like, we're losing people, the crew, we're losing finally the camera breaks. He's like, how do I make money off this? I know. And everybody else is just like, let's just get the fuck out of here. And he keeps pushing it. Like, no, we're going to come out on top, Yeah, it's sinister.
So
Yeah.
before we get that set off an adventure, we meet Anne Darrow. Is that what it
And
is?
Darrow.
The young ingenue of a what do you call him? Troupe.
She's a vaudeville.
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 Yeah.
Thank you.
She's a struggling actress. She's doing vaudeville comedy, a lot of like slapstick, juggling, pratfalls and all that stuff. Of
they
course,
close
they're
her
closed
theater.
down her theater. Yeah. So she's struggling in New York, a struggling artist.
Struggling in
Can't
New
afford-
York in the 1930s, where it's the Great
Yes.
Depression. People aren't just going to these Nickelodeons and paying a nickel to watch these bad movies Jack Black's making. They're struggling to eat. They're in bread lines and soup lines all day and hoping to have food and losing their jobs across the board.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she goes to talk to this executive guy to get a job, like a stage theater producer, something like that. And she's like standing outside of the restaurant. And that hit a lot harder this time too. She's looking at all their like steak and pasta and stuff. And he's like, look, it's tough breaks. Everybody's struggling. It's like you're about to go have a nice dinner. So I like the
Yeah.
depression stuff being brought in, even if it's really only present in the beginning. Like, that's completely absent from the original. So I like
Right.
that theming.
So he says,
like, you thought about being a prostitute?
You're right.
Yeah, you can go to this. He recommends this more seedy theater where it's like, the nudie stage or something. I don't know what it is.
Go
but
in,
it's-
take the gig, forget you was ever there. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not a bad looking girl.
And we've got, so
Real
just
bad.
my little bit of problem with the Naomi Watts stuff, which again is probably just the writing, is you've got this stuff where she's being urged to go ask for this audition by her sort of father figure, who's this old man who's got this good sneezing gag. He's one of the vaudeville actors, but he says these lines where he's like, I know what you're thinking. Is that the world's too cruel, and it has been since you was abandoned and left with us, your vaudeville family. And you're probably thinking that if you put your heart on the line, they're just going to bite back and you're never going to find love, and you certainly won't go to Monkey Island. And he just like kind of like says all her internal thoughts very broadly, just self-narrating them, which I just did not enjoy.
A lot of exposition happening that I would be trimming if I were in charge. Yeah, that's some of the stuff. But yeah, then he's like, and I'm going to Chicago. I'm not cut out for this anymore. Sorry, you're abandoned once again. And then that's where her kind of crisis is, when she runs into Jack Black.
And so she's familiar with Jack Driscoll, the playwright, and she's like, oh, I love his plays. So Jack Black is trying to pitch her on because he needs, his actress dropped out of the picture. He needs a new actress that can fit into the costumes that they already have, size 4 or whatever. So he's like, you're a size 4, right? And she's about to kind of walk away because she's like, this seems really crazy to me. But he mentions, oh yeah, Jack Driscoll is writing the screenplay. She's like, Jack Driscoll, I love him. So that's basically why she agrees to do it. And also she needs a job, right?
Mm-hmm. But she likes stage. She doesn't want to do film. But when it's a Jack Driscoll script, now she's on board, literally. And that's when we get to, is this the moving picture ship and all the shenanigans that ensue on that?
Skidoo.
And
so
I
they
like
get on.
that
They have
sequence.
this. Their ship is sort of a rundown old ship. We meet the captain and the crew and everybody. Now, what do you guys think
So
of
so
these
just
guys? Yeah,
it's like we're like 30 minutes in and we've met like four of our characters, and we've got
yeah.
about like 30 more minutes of setup where we're going to meet about six more characters. Like
We're not
again,
going
when
to meet
Mike's talking
Kong
about
until
trimming
like
these people, well,
yeah,
we're not going to meet the titular King Kong till about an hour and 20 minutes into
Yes.
this. But a
yeah.
lot of these ship people, I don't need the first mate. I don't need a little wild boy. I really don't need Lumpy, other than the fact that I do enjoy just saying
Hey,
Lumpy.
Lumpy's
Mhm.
great, and his little Chinese friend.
Yeah,
Choi, which Choi was in the
boy.
original, had a way worse name. His name was Charlie. I think that's worse.
Mm,
Um,
Mm.
you
but
step in that
he
giraffe
was the
piss, that's
cook.
permanent.
That's right. There was
Uh,
no Lumpy though in the original, so they
I'm
kind of
Lumpy the cook. You're gonna like this gruel that I make, and
sheep's
yeah,
brain
I'm the
and
ship's
walnut
cook.
sauce.
Monkey brains.
He took like
Yeah,
cooking classes to learn how to make sheep brain and walnut sauce too. So
What did
and
I tell you about keeping all that chloroform out?
yeah,
we have Thomas
exactly.
No.
Kretschmann as the captain, the German
Hmm.
captain of the ship. Um,
Who is this
and here's
guy?
another character where it's like, is this guy a bad guy? Is he a good guy? Like, what's his deal?
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
you get the whole chloroform thing where it's like, yeah, they
He catches
capture
live
wild
animals.
animals.
That's his
Yeah,
thing.
and his first thing is he's outside. Everybody's running on side. Jack Black's got this great oneer. There's a lot of great oneers. This film is very well
Yeah.
shot. Her
yeah,
oneer with the audition guy when they're walking through the taxis as she's begging for it. That's fantastic. This when they're walking
Hmm.
up to the boat and he's saying, "Do we have everything? We have this. We have that." Colin Hanks saying, "Yes, yes, yes." The only thing is the captain won't leave yet. Captain, what's going on? I'm waiting for the manifest. English, please. What's the I need the laws and the rules and I'm following all this stuff. Well, what if I pay you more? Hey, you haven't paid me enough. And we
yeah.
get this weird setup where he goes, "Well, you wouldn't want to keep our beautiful woman waiting." Which is kind of like another love interest kind of setup for Naomi Watts, and they kind of do a little bit of a fake one with Kyle Chandler too, where I'm also like, why are you setting up every character to want to have sex with our lead actress?
Well, have you seen the
Yeah.
original?
Is it?
Well, there's a lot
Well, I
of
think
like,
like
whoa, ooga googa, look at that dame from the
Yeah.
crew
yeah, well,
members.
she's the
Oh,
only girl on
Chihuahua.
the ship. But you have all these male characters, and I think the Kyle Chandler, I do like his character because he's sort of the um juxtaposition with him and Adrian Brody, where it's like
Yes.
he's the
It's a joke.
stereotypical leading man, handsome actor, but he's actually sort of a coward and it's like uh this preening actor, right? And then you
Yeah,
have Adrian Brody, who's the real man, I guess.
because he's
Turns out,
sensitive.
yeah, he's
He's in touch
sensitive.
with
He's an
his feelings.
artist. Yeah.
Yes.
But you have Carl Denham literally running from the producers of the movie with his footage because he overhears them. Let's sell the footage to National Geographic or whatever, and we'll just make whatever money we can out of this. So he steals the footage. He's like, I'm finishing this movie. Runs to the boat. They're literally running from the police.
Hmm.
So he needs the boat to take off as fast as possible so he can evade the financiers,
And
right?
get his picture made. Yeah, exactly. It's very
Yeah.
passionate. Um, and yeah, that's why he's tricking Adrian Brody with, oh, it's today the 5th. It's the 14th.
Yeah, he's
Come
like, what if
on.
I write you a check for $2,000 right now? He's like, I've never been, no, I never knew you to offer money up.
Yeah,
Right.
you'd actually pay me. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
But even that too, he's
Right.
like, oh, you wrote $2,000. He's like, oh, my bad. I wrote literally $2,000 instead
Yeah.
of $2,000.
But this whole situation is kind of funny to me in that, like, as soon as the boat takes off, like the police show up, the boat's literally like 30 feet out of the dock, right? And you're like,
Just shoot
well,
him.
there's no way we can stop them now. They got away with it.
So
They don't have a
long.
port authority, nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
And also,
But I
he
like
tricks
this-
Adrian Brody into being on the boat when it takes off, and then he just kind of accepts that he's on this boat now, and there's no way that he could. Well, he
On
says
an
like, "Well, if you're a real
island.
artist, you would jump." Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
If you
right.
really loved your play, you would kill
Right.
yourself.
what a
Oh, wow.
manipulator! This guy's going crazy. But I do like this
Yeah.
version of Denim because in the original, it's just like I make the best pictures there's ever been, and everybody agrees with that, and I'm the best. It's like I like this kind of failure of an artist who's like desperate for that. It's a better version on the character, I think.
yeah. And I think even he's sort of the Peter Jackson insert character, where he's like this director that will go to any lengths to get his movie made, kind of thing. So he probably
Took me a nervous
identifies with the Jack
breakdown,
Black
yeah.
character.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then Adrian Brody needs to sleep where the cages are, and that's where we find out there's a ton of chloroform here. I told you to hide those, not display them neatly for the dolly shot to push in upon.
Right. Sorry, we don't
Yeah,
have any
like,
cabins
maybe a
for you. You got to sleep in this
cage,
animal
yeah.
cage.
Are you a
What a-
lion or a chimpanzee?
Yeah, that's the Andy Serkis question. He's a chimpanzee. So yeah, Adrian
Get
Brody.
back here, little boy. I wasn't doing nothing. He
Give his pen
stole
back.
your pen because he's bad. He's wild.
How did he know he grabbed the pen? He wasn't even in the room anyway.
Did you
I'm
think
just
it
sitting up
was
in the
going
crow's
to cut
nest
to a
reading
scene?
Hearts of Darkness.
Did you think it was going to cut to a scene with that guy spanking JB Bell?
I
Like,
never
didn't it
once
seem like
thought
that's what their tension was? Like, it was so intense.
Well, they set up this story of
Cabin
like,
boy.
yeah, you gotta look, forget about life on a ship. You gotta go learn yourself something, go to school.
You're
You
my
know?
special guy. You know that.
hmm
Yeah, you're a wild one, Jimmy.
I like
We're
Mr.
gonna
Hayes,
fix you.
but I really don't need like these characters subplots much. It is
No.
kind of like okay.
Amy, like
Yeah, it's a little
wild
bloated.
horse.
Like, yeah, it should
You're
just be
what
more
tonight?
focused on, like you said, the trio, the main trio,
The
and then
three
you have the
Ds.
captain. You don't need the first mate. You don't need little Jimmy. You don't need all these extra characters. But I do like it. I mean, even Colin Hanks, it's like he's just there to be like, oh, I don't know if we should do that.
I like Colin Hanks as this kind of the moral compass kind of
Yeah.
where he slowly is like weird, maybe not doing.
He's
good
getting
things.
more disillusioned with Carl
Mm.
Denham because he's like, when the sound guy dies, he's like, yeah, we're gonna donate the proceeds to his wife and kids. And then the camera guy dies, he's like, we're gonna donate the proceeds to his wife and kids. And Colin Hanks is like, okay.
Yeah. But so boat section, after we've introduced every thousandth character of this, it's we get the screen tests. I've never been on a ship before. I've never been on a ship with a woman before. That's like directly out
You
of the
probably
original
don't
movie.
like being on a movie set or a boat with a dame like me, do you?
Exactly. The
I do like
original
all
one,
this
yeah.
stuff on the boat. Yeah, go ahead.
No, the original one, people complain so much about her being on the boat. I'm like, are these guys? Yeah, they just want no ladies on
Well,
the boat. They're having their own
traditionally-
thing going on. They're like, we could care less.
Yeah.
We're here.
Back in the day, and obviously this, would be considered sexist, of course, but it was
Mhm.
bad luck to have a woman on the ship because then it would curse your ship. So
We encountered this in
in the
Pirates
olden
too,
days.
correct? This
We
concept.
Yes,
talked about
yes.
Elizabeth Swan's adventure on boats where she was constantly, told she was a cursed object.
hmm So, but
Yeah.
a product of the time, unfortunately, and lines from the original movie. But we get the screen test, and Jack starts thinking, actors, no matter they travel the world, and they only ever see the mirror. But he starts to get, the will they, won't they's happening, and yeah.
Yeah, again, I
This
love
goes
the
fast.
Kyle
This is a good
Chandler.
montage.
hmm
Kyle Chandler role is very funny to me. Just this
Look.
leading man. He's hanging the posters up in his room, and then Jimmy like graffitis on the poster, and then he draws a mustache on the one guy, and he's like, maybe I would look good with a mustache.
I was
Clear
really
eyes,
hoping
full
at the
hearts.
end. Yeah, when he was doing the
Yeah.
premiere, I was hoping he had a mustache when they did the Kong premiere. He's like, I actually grew that,
That would
thing
be
out.
funny.
That would
Yeah.
be really good.
Yeah, it's fun. And then basically, it's still, where are we going? You're not told us our heading, Mr. Denham. I'll tell you eventually. And at one point, they get the Morse code that's like, yo, you got a warrant for your arrest. We're turning this ship around, and that creates
Right.
tension for this
He
arc.
tells them that they're
guess.
going to be shooting in Singapore, but then he's like,
We're not
look,
going to
I've
Singapore.
got this map
Return
of an
west.
uncharted island that no one's
Undiagnosed.
ever been
Mhm.
to, or the only people that have been to have never returned. We're going to go shoot
Island.
there.
Covered in fog. It's this, it's that. Well, if I'm going to write it, you got to tell me what it's called. Okay, it's called S K U. What's that, Jimmy? Oh no, Jimmy heard me.
But then
The name of the
it
island,
seems
oh,
like
no.
Mr. Hayes and Jimmy like have heard of this island before. Like the sailors kind of know of its reputation, and so they're
Picked
like,
up a guy.
"Look, we ain't going there. Like
Mhm.
it's cursed. We go there, you're never coming back."
Right.
But then there's like a storm. Yeah, like you said, they get Morse code. They turn the boat around because Jack Black has been arrested.
Horn's like, I don't give a
um,
shit. We're taking you back. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's a storm, right? So they have to keep going, and all of a sudden there's rocks and stuff in the way, and they have to, really maneuver the boat, and it's Skull Island.
30 fathoms.
Rocks
We're
starboard.
shallowing. Yep.
Rocks poured, rocks everywhere.
Give me another
Yeah.
reading. Yeah. So this is a very intense. This is something this movie does is it's maximum intensity for all of the action. This is the start of that where it's like there's
Yeah.
so many rocks, more rocks than I've ever seen. These waves are going crazy. Like this is the
Was
maximum
this?
danger.
Do you remember, Mike? Was this a big 3D movie?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think it was.
This might have been before 3D,
Right
but there was some
before
shots
the
where I was
break.
like, this would be like a crazy 3D shot, like things going into the screen and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're getting this crazy storm. It is visually interesting, and they eventually run aground. They get jammed up against a rock nearby Skull Island. So now they got to figure out how to
Yeah.
unjam the boat. Meanwhile, Cardenum says, "Well, you figure that out. I'm going to shoot my picture." And he
I'm taking
takes
this
a lifeboat
rowboat.
out.
Yeah.
And that's end of boat arc.
That's how we get to the island.
The One Piece
The
music
island
just played.
where that's
Dun,
right.
Dun, 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 and
We get to the island where everything on the island is trying to kill you at all times.
Australia, we've made it.
Yeah, New Zealand maybe. But they get to they get to what they think are the ruins, right? The ruins of the native people. They haven't lived here for hundreds of years. This is all ruins. They're
Mhm.
walking around, and this is where we get the introduction of the natives of Skull Island, right?
Yes. John C. Riley walks out to explain to us
That's
in
right.
English who they
katana.
are, what they're up to.
Yep. Let me
And this
preface.
Yeah.
The original movie definitely handles it much worse than this.
I'm sure, yeah.
Granted.
1930s.
Right.
But for
the savages
2005, I
Boy.
still think this is like, pretty questionable here.
trope. The danger
I
with
don't know.
making a King Kong remake is you kind of can't not include a form of this scene, but it's how to
Right.
do it correctly. And I don't know if I have
The
the
problem for
answer.
me,
They
Yeah.
certainly always have, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that they're just portrayed as just complete savages who want to do nothing but kill these white people.
Yeah,
And-
the scene of like candy, you want candy, and they're just
Leave the kid
cannibals.
alone, Denim.
Yeah, they're
right.
He doesn't want the
They're-
chocolate.
absolute savages. There is no
culture or anything like that.
They're probably,
just
they're
kindness to any
cannibals.
of it.
Yeah. They're
or
just-
understanding or compassion.
Taking these people, they're smashing their heads with like clubs and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing that happens, right, is Mike, the sound guy, gets speared in the back, and that's like, oh shit, they're
Mhm.
they're trying to kill us.
It's our
And
first
just the way they're
casualty.
portrayed too. I mean, it's like Lord of the Rings. You had the orcs and stuff, which is like that's okay because orcs, they're not humans. They're like
They're
a different
monsters.
race. Yeah, they're monsters. Now you have these like Aboriginal looking people.
Yeah.
And again, the way they're portrayed, it's just I don't know if you wouldn't
Well, I mean, the
even
worst
do that
part
today.
is at one
Yeah.
point, in between basically them going ooga booga, is that they yell out "meat's back on the menu, boys."
Mm. What about their
Right.
legs? They don't need
That's what
those.
That's the thing is though, they're basically portrayed as the orcs in Lord of the Rings. It's like
They
this
are,
is
yeah.
questionable. And now you have like Kong Skull Island, they did the natives much better where it's like, yeah, there's the native people. They're not like mindless savages though. Like they live on this island and
They
they
have a
you know,
culture.
yeah. You get
And-
the little girl that like, gets
dreams
adopted
about
and everything.
Kong or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, our favorite character. Then you
Yeah.
think from New Zealand too, with like the heritage of the Maori and stuff. It's like we would have more sensitivity, maybe Peter Jackson, to depicting native.
Yeah, that's a little
peoples.
questionable.
Yes.
PJ, I don't know, man. I
Maybe
don't know.
too much close to the original trope wise of cannibal
Yeah.
savages.
This is something they could have by updating for modern audiences, they could have sort of inverted it and given them more dimensions than just being like these mindless savages trying to kill all these white people.
Right.
But that's what they are.
Yeah, out of just a random pitch, it's like you establish there's normal natives doing normal shit, culture, whatever. Hey, welcome in, check it out. We got cool shit. And then there's maybe an extreme group that likes to sacrifice to Kong and they kidnap or whatever.
Right.
Set up something.
Yeah.
I understand why they're not happy that they're there because they're like intruding in their, space, right? But
Right. Presumably they
don't
don't
know.
get a lot of
I don't
visitors. But this does
Yeah.
set up that they see Ann Darrow, obviously,
Ann.
and they want to
Yeah.
get her off the island. They get off the island and then they kidnap her,
lady.
which is the same as in the original. They do kidnap her off the boat, when they go back.
Kong's
All
like
those-
me. If he's
those
got one
holes.
downfall, it's a blonde lady. He's
He
Mhm.
loves
gonna
these
go
blonde
after
ladies.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like,
right.
ooh, a blonde lady. Maybe we'll
Ooh, blonde
sacrifice
lady.
her to Kong.
Yeah, but
Um,
they don't do pole vaulting in the original, but they do abscond aboard the cover of Night and steal
okay.
Andara away.
Yeah. So their first confrontation, yeah, they spear Mike the sound guy. They grab some people. They're like bashing their heads in.
Mhm.
Um, and they're about to bash Carl Denham, and then the captain shows up with the crew, and they save them. And then they're like, all right, let's get out of here. Let's go back to the boat.
Mhm.
And that's when, yeah, they say, oh, we like this blonde lady. Let's sneak over the boat and steal her.
Mhm.
And then Adrian Brody realizes that she's been taken. He's like, we gotta go back for Anne. Let's go. And everyone's like, okay, we're going to get Anne.
And Englehorn's like, whatever, dude. Fuck you guys. You still suck. You have 24 hours, and I'm out of
Yeah,
here. So that's a ticking clock
right.
that we are introducing. Um,
Yeah,
you
but
got one
Mr.
day,
Hayes, Jimmy, some of the other crew members go with them.
and then obviously,
And they get back to the island just in time to see Kong sort of running away with Anne. She gets
Dun, dun,
sacrificed by the
dun,
people,
dun.
right? There's a big
The
thing.
big
this is like
scene. It's her on the cross.
it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
iconic. I think it's so big. Like this, sometimes that's why I think this movie's a little too big. Like it's so over the top with this
yeah,
drawbridge thing, and like it's like okay, dial it back a little bit, Peach. But you know that's what he's
right.
going for is this
But
gigantic
Well, so
adventure.
we see our big boy. What do you think of the special effects here? I was a little shaky on how the actual wide shots of Kong hold up, but I think the close-ups are pretty fantastic
Hmm.
still.
well, again, it's 2005. I think once we'll talk about some of the dinosaurs and stuff, maybe the CG doesn't look obviously
Quite
as
there.
good as something today, but for
Mhm.
2005, I thought it looked pretty good.
What looks better,
And
Captain Marvel or Peter Jackson's King Kong, Jacob?
yeah,
Or Ant-Man Quantumania, or
Yeah,
well, it's definitely
Ant-Man.
some bad CGI today, but I think you could, like, even if you compare like the Jurassic World movies to this, like obviously they look a little better
Jurassic
effects
Park
wise,
looks
just
better than
because
this, but that's
yeah,
unfair.
but that's yeah, Jurassic
That
Park
it's
was
an
so ahead of
anomaly.
its time, I think. Yeah.
But Kong himself, I like this version of Kong because now in Legendary we have like Kong kind of in his prime. He's getting a little bit older, but he's jacked, he's good looking, he's got a robot hand,
Yeah,
right? But this
Hmm.
Kong, he's seen some shit. He's got scars, he's missing a
he's
tooth,
beaten
he's like
up.
old man Kong. And I like what
He's
Kyle
like
Chandler was saying.
depressed Kong. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but Kyle Chandler made a reference when he's scared of the dinosaurs. Somebody's like, look, in the real world, heroes don't look like me. They got a bald spot, bad teeth, and a beer gut. And that's
Right.
kind of what Kong is in this. Is like a
Yeah.
guy with bald
Yeah.
spots, bad teeth, and a beer belly.
I like this Kong because he's really just like a giant gorilla.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Like the new Kong is much more like he's upright, he walks on two legs a lot, and he's like more humanoid looking. This
Hmm.
Kong is literally just a giant, like he looks like a giant
Mm.
gorilla. He's very gorilla looking.
Do we
Yeah.
think is he alone or does he have a little Skronkus, Jacob?
I don't think there's any Skronkuses. It's just he's the
Yeah.
king of this island. There's a bunch of other animals that are trying to kill you constantly, but he's the king of the jungle.
And they do a version of this in the legendary movies when he's in the Hollow Earth and like, oh, he's got to defeat all this shit just to chill on his little cliff face, which he gets a cliff face in
Right.
both universes. But I like this version of Kong's domain more than Hollow Earth. Like I like this Skull Island because
Yeah.
everything is out to kill you, and they establish that it is very fucking dangerous. Like throughout the runtime of this segment, it
Oh
is
yeah.
out of the
Yeah.
frying
Literally,
pan
they
into the
can't go.
fire constantly.
Yeah, they can't go 2 feet without getting attacked by something.
Hmm.
But yeah, this Kong, he's just like tired and sad and just like the most depressed old gorilla you've ever seen. He's just kind of like tired of life, but
I
then
just
he
want that blonde
he
lady.
meets this little blonde lady. He just
His
loves her
love of
so much.
vaudeville, he hangs on for a little bit longer.
It's kind of. Do you
Yeah.
guys remember when we did the Star Wars holiday specials and we were like, Chewbacca's grandfather is this like lonely, depressed, old, ugly man who just wants to jack off and watch those Hollow singers
The
or whatever.
Hollow
It's kind of like
Yeah.
he's got big Kong energy,
He
doesn't he?
does. He does.
Yeah.
He just wants some dames to come by. But
But he
I
sort of
do like this
bonds
version of Kong.
with Anne. Yeah. Anne sort of yeah, she does her vaudeville tricks for him to like keep him entertained and be like, yeah, like please don't kill me or eat me.
Yeah,
Like,
bonds with her in the way that a serial killer bonds with any of the people he steals. I
yeah,
guess.
It's a Stockholm Syndrome movie at the end of the day, but I do like
Yeah.
that when she's doing the vaudeville, the only stuff that he thinks is funny is when she falls down and he continues to just
Yeah.
knock her over. Like that's what's funny to
yeah.
him is the falling down.
And then eventually she stands up to him
Boy.
and is like, no, no
Caesar.
more.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah.
it really made me uncomfortable for her to be like, I'm actually done doing that. So no more. We're done.
We're
It's
done.
like, don't
Yeah.
yell at him. He's a big dummy.
But I
But
like that. Then he throws the
you gotta be
tantrum and the
firm with
rock hits him
animals.
on the head. It's funny.
Yeah.
That's the most pathetic thing when he throws the big tantrum and then he's just like the rock falls on his head and he's just like, man, I hate
He's so
this shit." Like,
embarrassed. No,
Yeah.
but that's where we're getting the Andy Serkis. Like it is a very realistic type
Right.
gorilla, but we're getting so much personality out of it, which I do enjoy.
I
We've
think-
talked a lot about him and a lot of his different ape performances. So what
Yes.
is setting this apart?
Well, I think this is where he's
Naturalistic?
learning the ropes of ape performance because this is obviously before Caesar.
Right.
And so he's perfecting his apeness. I think when I look at some of his facial expressions and stuff of Kong, I'm like, oh, I do see how that becomes Caesar. Obviously, Caesar's a different character, but I can see him sort of perfecting that role with this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the physicality, obviously Caesar's a lot different too. He's more upright, but like I like
Yeah.
seeing this kind of realistic portrayal of gorilla behavior and little gestures and stuff and just a simple
Yeah.
like sideways glance.
Yeah.
It's different, but you see the basis underneath there. And when he's doing things like saying "Why Cookie and Darrow," you're really feeling the Caesar in him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also like he was on set. Sorry, I forgot to mute my phone. He was on set when they were shooting the plates with Naomi Watts in like a half gorilla costume, like doing
Mm.
voices
Oh.
and gestures, like pretending like he'd be off camera, but to give her something to react to. Like this is approximately what the giant ape is doing right now. So he would
I
act
would
it
like
out.
to see pictures of that. That's very different
Yeah.
than our Smauggy boy that we talked about before, where Benedict was like, "Look at me crawl around,
Little
and
dragon."
I'm so greedy, aren't I?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "I guess so. We're not really using any of that."
This is strictly for blackmail
Well, I would say, like,
purposes, Benedict.
Yeah.
I thought, Andy Serkis was probably really busy on this set because he again was playing a dual role. Lumpy
Mhm.
is part of the crew, so he's doing Lumpy a lot when you were with Jack and the boys and everything.
Yeah.
And then even when they get confronted by Kong on that log, and it's like he's acting as Kong, and then he's also acting as Lumpy. So I think Andy Serkis, he was
And
real
he's-
busy on this set.
He's
Yeah.
doing Kong when Naomi Watts is just sitting on a cliff, so she doesn't have nothing to react to, and then he does the whole movie
Right.
again as Kong in the soundstage. He was very busy.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, just for
What
the motion
would-
capture.
What would be the worst way to die in this movie? Eaten by the tapeworms?
Oh yeah,
That's a rough
that's
one.
horrific. Yeah,
Yeah, just the giant insects. I don't love them. I don't want
I
them
would
on
take
me.
honestly, I would take getting eaten by Kong or the T-Rexes over like a grasshopper or ant the size of me cuts my head
Yes.
off. Like that would
Yeah.
like bug me a lot more.
I would rather just get
killed
like
by a
knocked
bug.
off a tree and
Yeah.
fall to my death than get eaten by some kind of giant animal.
swarm
Yeah.
of bugs. No, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, we're getting a lot of references to the original, and this is where a lot of the extended
Yeah.
sequences are. Like when they fight that Triceratops dinosaur thing, like that was not in the theatrical cut. When they're fighting in
And-
the lake, that's not in the theatrical cut. But it's endless horrors.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I'm shocked to hear that. Again, none of those scenes felt new. But Mike, to your original for just a second, which did we even say the Ray Harryhausen of it all? That the Kong in that is stop motion. It's sort of like clay, correct? Or is it a person?
It's
kind of?
armatures. It's like
Okay.
armatures covered in fur and like latex or synthetic materials, and so yeah, it's stop
Wow.
motion. It wasn't Harryhausen, but it would lead to Harryhausen's stuff like work and Sinbad. So yeah, stop motion technique. They would do
Yeah.
multiple compositings, and it was interesting to watch the original and like seeing this in 1933. You'd be fucking blown away by some of the shots. Like they even have
Oh
some
yeah.
like moving shots, like the camera's not static when they're doing compositions. It looks really interesting in the 33 version.
And
Yeah.
then they're
I
just
think they
splicing in like, and this is an ant that we shot with like a macro lens, and look,
right.
it's coming for you.
Right.
Ah!
Well, it's not quite that because I do remember one where they just had a postcard with an ant crawling on it. They like that was in a movie, but they did all of the monsters were like claymation. There was a lot of dinosaurs. There is a
Cool.
T-Rex fight.
Okay.
They fight a Stegosaurus. Like a lot of the sequences, they fight a sea monster. It looks like a plesiosaurus, but like a lot of the beats that we're having here are in the original exploring the
Yeah.
jungle sequence.
And I love the dinosaurs and stuff in this. I think they make a reference to it when there's when Carl's shooting the brontosaurus herd, right? And he's like,
Mm,
Kyle Chandler, go stand in front of them so people will know they're real, you know? He's like,
mhm.
I don't think people are gonna think these are, fake.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because they are fake in the movie, they're
Yeah.
CGI, obviously. But
But we need a
uh,
foreground element to sell it like you would
yeah.
need in the
Yeah.
post
That's
production.
good.
And that's a very funny scene. And that's a big scene that I remember from the first time I saw it is the big stampede, the raptors causing a stampede of the brontosauruses and just crushing people and, running through this gorge or whatever.
Yeah, this is
Is this a
this kicks off the everything is dangerous from here on out, you know.
Yeah.
is this a good kind of timeout real quick to ask you guys
Hmm.
if you've ever played the video game before?
Oh man, buddy.
I have not. No.
Boy, let me tell you, I wanted to sneak this
Mike.
in the final thoughts. I love it,
Mm.
and it is awesome. And I don't like. Have you played it?
I have not. It was a lot of first person, you're just shooting things on the island, right? Or were you also Kong?
So, all right. It is. You're playing as Jack Driscoll on the island stuff, but you do get to play as Kong sometimes too. But the most interesting thing,
Watch some vaudeville.
yeah,
As
yeah,
Jack Driscoll, you collect screenplay pages you're writing. Good. It's getting
right.
further.
It's Ubisoft, yes. So you do collect things, but no. It's the most interesting thing is there's no UI, so you don't know your ammo, your health, unless it's like. So he'll be like, two
Oh.
magazines on backup, 3 bullets left, and it's Adrian Brody. Every actor came back to record the voices for the video game.
Whoa.
So
Oh,
it's
that's
Jack
funny.
Black, Naomi Watts, everybody came back, and so you're just playing as Jack Driscoll. 2 magazines on
And
backup.
this is for like
It's just stuck in my head.
that's funny. This is for like the GameCube or something.
It was for Xbox
GameCube and 360, maybe. Yeah, I think was this
Oh.
Mike. Was this the era where the like this and another movie game, the Escape from Butcher Bay, the Riddick one, where people were
Oh.
like, movie video games are good.
Yeah, this is honestly one of the best survival video games I've ever played. The problem is you can't play it
Wow.
anymore because of licensing, but it was awesome. When you're trying to survive against a T-Rex with just like a spear and like 2 bullets and a Tommy gun, it's pretty intense. Like Skull Island
That's
feels
cool.
very dangerous. It's
Right.
very well made. So get an emulator if you can.
And
I
it's
recommend it.
the brutalist himself. That's
It's one of the best video game movies ever made.
Hey.
I agree.
He's getting some practice before he has to fight some predators. Am I right?
Absolutely. But you'll have stuff where like you got to light a stick on fire and throw it like to light other branches on fire to create a distraction to like escape
That's pretty
raptors
cool.
and stuff. You got to like hide in
Yeah.
little cubby holes that they can't get into. It's pretty intense.
You get attacked by giant mosquitoes at one point.
But you do the
I would assume
Brontosaurus
you-
sequence, all these sequences you do in the game.
I assume you gun down natives in a tasteful scene.
Did you do that at all? I don't know if the no Russian equivalent.
Okay.
I can't remember that.
Yeah.
I specifically remember fighting dinosaurs. I cannot attest to if they forced me to do natives throw shooting. So
Okay.
Well,
Oh.
talking about the different animals and giant bugs and things on the island.
mhm.
Let me ask you this: Do you guys like this Skull Island or Kong Skull Island, where you have the skull crawlers?
I
which
like
were
the
introduced
scroll
in that
crawlers
movie.
better than the dinosaurs.
Yeah,
I,
you
li-
still
I
have
like
giant
the
bugs and
setup
things.
that his whole family was eaten and he wants revenge. I like that Kong a little
Yeah.
bit better, honestly.
And
I like this Skull Island more because having seen
Mm.
the original, it did have dinosaurs and big bugs and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I like that. I like the dinosaurs and everything. In Skull Island, I always remembered there's a very funny scene with Shea Wiggum's death scene where he tries to
Yeah.
sacrifice himself
yes.
to like give the others time to get away, and he ends up just like totally failing. It's a very funny scene if you haven't
Kong like
seen
flicks
it.
him away, right? And he just
Yeah.
goes up somewhere else.
Jordan Vogt Roberts, director of that movie, I think is a director that I like a lot. So
Yeah, no, that
shout out
scene is very
Skull
funny.
Island.
But yeah, this is where I get a little bit of bloat creep because like even this dinosaur stampede, it's like this is too much. Like there's too much.
It could have been
big
cut down a
dinosaur.
little bit. Yeah.
Like 15
Like
of
every
them
action
pile up on
scene.
each other. The likelihood of survival is 0.0001 for this entire stretch of the movie.
And there's a lot of like in all these scenes, like a lot of extras are dying, a lot of crew members that we don't really know, but all the main characters are somehow miraculously surviving.
It was giving
There-
Pirates
there's-
2, you know, we're just
Yeah.
more and more and more
Yes.
spectacle.
I also just want to say that like there's scenes where like Naomi Watts and Kong are like watching the sunrise, and you watch the whole sunrise, and you're just
Yeah.
like, right, yes, okay,
Beautiful.
Peter,
Yeah, she teaches them beautiful sign language.
beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like,
Beautiful.
I am beautiful.
Um, but there are a lot of callbacks to the original, like the log scene. That's in the original. Kong shaking the log and them hanging off of it, and like seeing how
Right.
they did
That's
that in
cool.
1933 is really interesting. And the dinosaur fight was in the original and all that kind of stuff. So
I
it's
remember
cool
in
to
the
see that.
70s version. Yeah.
Yeah, the log has been in
Of
all
course,
three
then you have
versions.
the T-Rex fight or the V-Rex, whatever it's called.
Which this is awesome to me. I love this.
Yeah, so you have
sequence.
Andaro running away from multiple like things trying to kill her, and then eventually
There's always a bigger fish. She's doing her. There's always a bigger fish sequence.
She goes inside a log. There's like freaking bugs crawling on her and stuff, which it's like I'd rather get eaten by a T-Rex. Just get these fucking bugs off me, you know?
Get it done in one bite. Yeah.
Yeah. But eventually she gets attacked, and there's 3 Rexes, 3 big old dinosaurs, and that's where King Kong comes in and saves her, and we get this big fight where he's holding her. He has to like catch her in different limbs and stuff as this fight is going on, but he's fighting 3 dinosaurs at the same time.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question, Jacob.
Yeah.
Would you rather the bugs killed you, or to save you, a kid who's definitely getting molested shoots a Tommy gun around your dick and face?
Hold still.
What,
am
what
holding
would
still.
you prefer?
I think it's miraculous that he somehow did not shoot Adrian Brody at all. He just shoots bugs off him. I think that's somewhat
Shoot your
unlikely.
dick
But
off.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, get those damn bugs off me.
That's a good reaction from Adrian Brody, though. There's that look like, bro, close one.
Yeah.
Dinosaur fight's cool. The breaking the jaw is iconic.
Yes.
and-
And when he
yes.
breaks the jaw and he's like kind of playing with it and putting it back together, I always remember
I
that
don't
from
like.
the first
I
time
don't
I
love
saw it.
that.
No, that's
I like
from the
that he
first
does
one.
it. I don't love that he's
And he does that little
so
shake.
into it.
But I
Yeah.
do like that they,
Yeah.
like, that's very, like, wild animal, like, this kind of, like, messing around with it, you know, after the fact. But, like, I like that
Yeah.
they recreated a lot of moves from that fight. Like, even when he's trying to pry the jaws open and they close again and he punches them and tries to, like,
Right.
all those moves are in the
breaking your
original. It's
jaw.
just hard to see them and to, they, like,
That's crazy.
use the
Yeah.
choreography.
cool.
It's pretty sick.
I need to see the original because it sounds really
And that's
impressive.
the chest
for
beat
for the
moment.
time.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's chef's
Well,
kiss.
Jacob, the big fear is if you ever saw it, you'd want to remake it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For 6 hours. But even with that sequence, though, this is, again, maybe me complaining too much, but it's like, we're fighting dinosaurs. But then what if we fell off a cliff? Oh, but then what if we were trapped in vines? But then what if I was swinging towards it in the vines? Then what if we fell to the bottom? And then we kept fighting some more. Like, it's just
Right.
a lot of escalation for every sequence. The bug sequence is much the same. So,
Yeah.
That's just
Well,
fun
even
around
the party that falls off the log, they all end up like in this valley, and then all of a sudden, yeah, these giant crawlies are coming out. Oh no, we got to deal with that. And
Yeah.
now, these tapeworms are eating my limbs. Oh no, it's on my head.
right.
Yeah, eat
Um,
my limbs, don't eat my brains.
It
Come
just
on.
keeps getting
Yeah.
worse
Oh,
and
Lumpy's death is the worst to me. Where it's like, oh man.
And,
But
like,
also, yeah.
If I had to eat somebody, like if I was an animal, like the last person I'd want to eat is a guy named Lumpy. Doesn't he inherently
True.
just
Yeah.
sound like he would taste the worst out of everybody else?
Yeah. I do like
Right.
his relationship with Choi.
No.
His
Mhm.
little Chinese
you
buddy,
don't.
and he's so sad when he dies. Just like, no, man,
This
my
is
buddy.
this is literally the bottom moment for these characters, and they do illustrate, like, we see Jimmy being really sad about Mr. Hayes, and then
Yeah,
Lumpy's really sad about Choi, and then who is the Jack Black? What is he sad about? He sees the camera is
the
broken.
camera's
That's the
broken. The
most
film
important
is
thing
all
to him.
out. Yeah,
No.
So
and
this is-
so many people have died at this point, and all he cares about is the camera. Even his loyal friend Herb, the camera guy, he didn't make it.
And we're going to
Yeah,
donate the proceeds to his wife and family. He does the speech
that's right.
again.
Yeah, and Colin Hanks like, I don't know about this guy.
I've never read him as this much of a villain until this viewing, but it's like, yeah, man, he's
Yeah,
even when he's recording after the fish attack, and then Engel, whatever, the captain is like, "Did you get
like,
it?"
did you
And
get
he's
that?
like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, I did get it." It's like,
yeah.
man, you're crazy.
Again,
Um,
he's just getting. He's making his movie by whatever means necessary. You know.
Goodbye, Crook.
but Kyle Chandler had left. Everybody's fucked. We're in the bottom of the valley. There's too many bugs coming. He's like, "Screw this. I'm out of here. I'm not an action star."
I
But
do.
he has a
Well, I love
turn.
this moment when he leaves, where he's like, Jack Driscoll's like, I knew you weren't like the leading man that you portray, but I never took you for a coward. And he's like, look, I'm just an actor who's lost his motivation.
That was good.
Which I think is a really funny line. And then he does get his comeuppance moment when he comes back and he brings the captain back to save them at the last moment.
Mhm.
He's even swinging on a vine, shooting his Tommy gun and stuff. He's like, well, he is kind of a hero, I guess.
Nobody get in my way. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
good. So I'm glad he has that moment. And we got all the
And I kind of
Tommy
like,
guns slaying into the valley.
I like that he's not just the stereotypical cowardly guy. He does get that moment of like redemption.
Redemption. I wonder if
Well,
that
and
scene was
Jack's
shot. Like when he talks to the captain, says, "All right, look, actually, we got to go get him." And they just
yeah,
never
that
came
would have
in.
been a cool inclusion. Yeah.
I think the
But
surprise of them saving last moment, but there's two different scenes where the captain shows up with the crew and saves them all at the last
Yeah,
moment.
kind of
Like first when they meet the natives, and then this one again. So it's like kind of like a Deus Ex Machina, where like, yeah, they knew exactly where they were somehow, and they saved them right before our main characters got eaten by bugs.
we're in the abstract of making a sweeping Hollywood action picture. Like he's not really concerned about that. It's
Yeah,
Peter Jackson anyway. But
right.
yeah, we laid waste to the bugs. So yeah, get out of that valley. We got to climb out of here. But
Yeah,
Jack climbs up on the other side because he's still going after her.
that's right. Jack, let it go. She's dead. She was a great girl, that Anne, but
We're all gonna
we
miss
gotta.
her. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was good too.
look, she was a great dame.
Yeah, we're all gonna miss her. We got to get out of here. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's like, no, I'm in love with her. We fell in love on this boat. And so he
I was going to
sneaks
write
in.
a comedy for her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's not about the text. That was a good line too.
Right. But so he's determined to save her. He sneaks into Kong's lair while he's sleeping, and she's sort of like he's sleeping with like her. She's
Just
just like
like a
lying in his
plush.
hand.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
a doll. Yeah.
Yeah, they become friends at this point because once she got saved by
Yeah.
the T-Rex, she's like, he's a nice guy. This is a nice guy,
Yeah.
this King
They've
Kong.
bonded.
Yeah,
Um.
they've Stockholmed. But he tries to get her out of there. Kong wakes up. It's a whole to-do, and that happens in the original. There's like a pterodactyl and some vines, and all that's kind of all in the original. This getting out of there, they kind of fall.
I want to know,
hand,
like,
the animal.
for the original, is Kong as like sympathetic as he is in this movie, and does Anne have the same kind of connection with him, or is it more just like he's sort of like a wild animal in the original?
No, that's a very good question, and I think this is one of the improvements Peter Jackson makes is making Kong a sympathetic figure. The original is very much
Yeah.
just the beast, the eighth wonder of the world, and she is essentially, for lack of a better term, just daming it up, like fainting all the time, and just
Right.
being scared. 1933,
So she
stuff.
never has that sort of connection with him where
No,
she
not at all.
bonds with him, basically. Okay.
She's just
in
kidnapped.
this film, there's like a tangible feeling to it, right? It's palpable. There's almost a sexual or love connection.
Right.
It feels like that Kong has for this woman. There is something about modern big horny directors seeing the black and white film and then going like, well, when I make that version, I'll make it even hornier. Black
Yeah.
Lagoon and Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro's like,
Oh,
but
yeah.
what if it was hornier? And you're like,
That's true. He went all
I
the way
guess
with
so. What if it
that. At
was?
one point, Peter Jackson was at one point pitched a Black Lagoon remake that he passed on. So maybe that went to Guillermo and we got the Horny Lagoon. But yeah, so it's a lot more explicit that Kong is just kind of the sympathetic, almost just lonely, tragic figure, and she like respects that he came to save her, and that is not in the original at all.
This is
It's
my
just very
girlfriend.
much exactly. He's just obsessed. But when Jack escapes with her, he's like, "Oh no, I'm not having it," and Yeah, now he's going to pursue them to the back to where the boat is, essentially to get her back.
Right. And this is where Carl is like, look, we lost my film, but we can still come out ahead. We can capture this giant ape. You've got all that chloroform on your boat,
You want
right?
to what?
And this
Yeah.
is manipulation
This is
too,
what you
because
do.
he's like, look, I heard you were the best. Are you not the best? Like I
Yeah.
thought you were cool, and it kind of
Look, we
goes
could
him
all be
into it.
millionaires. Yeah.
Yeah. So he hatches this plan. One other interesting thing from the original to this is, like, for a large portion of the rescue stuff, like the uh, Denham is not on the exposition filming constantly while bad shit's
Oh,
happening. He just
wow.
stays at base camp after a little while. He's like, "You guys go with the guns. I'll wait here," and he just kind of waits at the gate.
Yeah, I
Bring
think that's a
Kong
good
to me.
addition
change.
to have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're running back to the bridge, and even then he's like, don't cut the rope that's
Yeah.
going to bring the bridge down yet. Hold. Like, and basically
bloody
risking their
bridge!
lives. And eventually
Mhm.
Colin Hanks like just cuts it himself. He's like, you're risking people's lives here.
And the tension from the wire cuts his face, which is
Yeah.
somewhat thematic.
But then they have, a bunch more crew members and stuff. This is what was funny to me is like we've so many crew members died on the island, and then you
Yeah.
still have so many trying to capture Kong. It's like, how many crew members were on this boat originally? It seems like an infinite amount. But
They say
yeah.
we lost 17 of our party when he's doing the big speech before Kong, but it's like there's definitely more than
Right. I
17
think it
people
was more
died.
than that.
I
Yeah.
think so.
You're like 17? I haven't met 17 people.
17 that I had on film,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I lost.
Even when they're trying to capture Kong, like he's throwing people all over the place and
Yes.
stuff. You're telling me none of
And
those people died?
the
Yeah.
captain here is just lobbing those chloroform. Naomi Watts is screaming, don't do it. And yeah, we get our big beast knocked out and enter phase 3 here, act 3, the return to New York.
Return to New York.
And this is interesting where it cuts, they capture him and then it directly cuts back to New York. We don't see them taking him back on the ship.
I was
kind of
to
wondering,
learn how
like,
they did that.
yeah,
You
that
picked
ship
him
did
up
not seem big enough to hold Kong and the
every
rest of
day,
everybody.
every 10 minutes. You were like, glug, glug,
Just
glug, glug, glug. Let's drink
Chloroforming him.
more of this stuff. Yeah, huff it up.
Yeah, I know. They
Like,
don't
what
really
if you woke
explain
up when
that.
they're in the middle of the ocean? Like, that
Well,
whole
he's
boat
gonna
would have
like
been destroyed.
shit, piss, and eat. I mean, it
Yeah.
probably took you weeks to get there. It's not an hour trip.
I had so many
think they said
questions
6
about
weeks.
that. Yeah.
6 weeks. 6 weeks.
Yeah.
They're like, keep Kong drugged.
Right. What are you
Exactly.
feeding him? Like, yeah, where's his shit
Yeah,
going?
what's his
Like,
metabolic rate? He's got to need so many calories.
Shit going.
yeah. These are all
But
questions
that's
I
neither
have.
here nor
Kong,
there.
squat over the boat side.
Yeah.
Tidal wave.
As long as Godzilla doesn't find out he's on the boat, we should be okay. Because otherwise, it's on site.
Right.
Yes, I'm the alpha.
Yeah. In the original,
Um,
they said they're like, "There's so many people on this boat. Why do they have so many people on the crew? This makes no sense." So they do, at least in the original. They're like, they have way more people than they would need for this kind of expedition. I do not understand, and that's because there's an ulterior motive. But that's not really
Right.
addressed here. But we're in New York,
No, they
baby.
just have a shit ton of chloroform on the boat. But yeah, we cut back to New York. It's 6 weeks later or whatever, and it's the opening of Kong, the eighth wonder of the world.
Mhm.
The show, right?
This is
You guys
just like
remember
the
when
OG.
Kong was a musical on Broadway? It was a gigantic puppet show, and it truly did shut like
Yeah.
after like
Oh,
I
no.
think like a month of performances or something like that. It was animatronics, huge head, huge hands, and it would lift things. It would you should look up pictures. It's pretty tremendous.
Okay.
will say,
Yeah. No, I remember that.
My family went on vacation when I was 12, went to California and went to Universal
Mm.
Studios, and I did the Kong ride or the experience, right? Have you guys ever done that
No,
at
what do you do
Universal?
on that one?
You're on like a trolley car or something, and Kong, there's like a big animatronic Kong, and stuff breaks and stuff. I don't remember as well as some of the other ones, like the
He
Twister one
picks
that I
up
did.
Jaws, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Now you get Jaws." Ah!
Well, there's the Jaws one that's so famous, but that one is like really kind of lame, actually, if you go on it, because it's just
They
like
all
the
are.
Jaws thing coming out of the water. The
Mhm.
Kong one was kind of cool, but the Twister one is the one I remember the most, where you're like in a subway and Twister causes a lot of damage,
I did go on that. So I was doing some research, but I went on that ride, the King Kong one, yeah, with the
Mm.
train car and the twister and the subway,
Yeah.
and there was like a earthquake one too, where there was like a flooding
Mhm,
tunnel or
mhm.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty neat. Um, but that's based on I think the '76 Kong,
Yeah,
essentially.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was before 2005.
and they
Um,
built Big Kong Head and Big Kong Hand for the original too, in a kind of similar way to what the Broadway,
Mm.
I guess, was doing. But anyway, yeah, we're here. We're gonna show off Carl Denham's monster.
It's interesting that you say that the second part's maybe your weakest part, Mike. Us going
Mm.
through it, I was like, ooh, that was a lot more than I thought. My issue with this part is it's just so much more it's just weaker and less than I would think. Because truly the last 25 minutes are just kind of the back and forth to get Naomi Watts back after she's kidnapped again, when the performance kind of goes haywire. And again, obviously they are intentionally mirroring the sunrise, but when they're on
Mhm.
top of the building, there's a lot of time where he's just kind of like holding her and staying around, and time's passing where I'm just like,
Yeah,
really nothing is fucking happening here.
yeah.
It's just
right.
I
kind of
think
a
this
bummer of an ending.
the New York stuff, it goes on a little too long with Kong and
So
like they could have cut
stretched,
that
yeah.
down, I think, a
We
little
have to
bit.
keep
Like
the
even
ice
when he's
skating though,
climbing on
right?
the ice skating is good, but like yeah, it's all just too long. And I think like when he's climbing on the Empire State Building, the planes show up and everything, that goes on forever.
We're gonna shoot
Um,
Kong.
this is New
Mhm.
York. We can't let this big ape run around.
Get him,
Yo, the
boys.
anti-ape
Save the
sentiment.
world trade.
I did not. I was
Yeah,
like, no, we don't talk like that on this pod. But that was cut from the
right.
theatrical. That one speech. This city was built by
Oh,
humans, not apes. Damn it! And we're gonna keep it for humans. I was like, whoa,
yeah.
Wow.
whoa.
And if an ape
Um,
called Caesar shows up, we'll kill him too.
that's right.
Shoot Caesar. Target Caesar.
But yeah, it's pretty much a mirror of the original, where here's the beast, and then flash photography is pissing him off, and he just kind of breaks free. But the difference that I liked here, Faye, right, Anne is at the premiere in the original with Jack Driscoll, and I like that they would both be like,
Mm.
"Fuck Carl Denham, dude, I want nothing to do with you. Like, I'm out."
Yeah.
That's so much better.
Yeah.
And when the girl comes up, it's not Anne. The look Kong gives, this Andy Serkis,
Yeah.
like, who the fuck is
This
this?
isn't
Like,
my blonde white
it's
lady.
so
We're-
good.
Hey,
yeah,
I'm easy. I'm not that easy.
Like, what the fuck? Yeah, it's great.
right. And that's what causes him to get angry and break loose from the chains.
Where's
Is that
my
it's not
girlfriend?
Anne.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
the
then I
shot
like
when
that
she
he's.
shows up, she's like silhouetted with the light. She shows up on the
Yep.
street.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible shot.
And
There's
she
some good
was-
shots in the New York stuff. Yeah.
And they cut like when it's working, because they're cutting between her backstage getting ready, thinking, alluding to the fact that she's there, and then it turns out
Yeah.
she's doing that lowbrow gig, that she was
Right.
offered in the beginning.
I thought
Like,
she would be doing Jack Driscoll's play because he's doing his comedy play, right? So why wouldn't she be doing that?
because she's mad that he was allowing them to kidnap Kong. He didn't stop him.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Her new boyfriend.
Everybody's mad at each other.
Right. So they're all mad at each other.
Yeah. Even
and I
Colin
like that
Hanks
Jack's-
is like mad at Jack Black. He's like, "Oh man, fuck this guy."
Exactly.
But I do like when Bruce Baxter, Kyle Chandler comes out in the play and he's like wearing his little safari outfit and everything. That's very funny to me.
Should have had the mustache.
Yep, it should have had the mustache. Would have been incredible. But I do like all this stuff where Jack's watching his play and the dialogue is explicitly like, "You didn't tell her how you feel." It's like, I didn't think I had to tell her, and all that. He realizes that he fucked up. Like, that works here.
Seems
and
like
that's
this
all
play
expanded upon.
is centered around a man dressing like a woman, sort of a Mrs. Doubtfire thing.
Some like it hot.
Yeah.
And the vaudeville show opens this movie too. That's a very strange fascination.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's right. Because she's dressing like a guy with a mustache.
Yeah.
But so that all works for me character wise. But then it just kind of goes on a while. But I like Jack being a protagonist because in the original he's not doing that. He's like, I'm going to distract Kong, get my little yellow Taxico car. Like I like the sequence on the city streets. That's a lot of fun.
Yes, but because this film can't end with any of our lead characters punching someone out and going like, well, I'll fly the biplane and be the big hero,
Mm-hmm.
there just really isn't a huge payoff. And then to mirror what I know is a direct quote of, I believe, the final lines, right, Mike? Was Beauty that killed the beast. It seems just very melodramatic. And I'm not positive it pays off any of the like we said, I mean that's almost like Jack Black again stealing into the limelight to steal the attention or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
there's no
Like,
big
well, this is
comeuppance at
your
the end that
fault,
he's
man.
like,
Like, what
I
did you
see what
learn?
I've learned is
He
that
has
I
no
killed the
character
world's
progression.
largest gorilla.
Yeah.
Yes,
No, it's like,
and
really, this was all your fault, and you've learned nothing.
No, and you see him with the producers, and he's like, "I love schmoozing so much," and then Colin Hanks is like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Yeah. So he does not
It was
change.
Beauty killed the beast.
Please
I think
give
it
me
was the
attention.
airplanes that.
That was, again, for 16-year-old Colin walking into this theater, hearing an adult man say, "Was Beauty that killed the beast?" I remember being like, fucking lame, and just really making fun of this thing. So,
Yeah. No, as reading him as a sociopath, it works so much better for me now. This
Yes.
movie,
Yeah.
in that way. But we get Anne and Jack. He climbs up the thing. They get a hug. So maybe they're going to get together now. There's a little bit of resolution, but it's pretty much, he gets shot by the airplanes just like in the original. And the original ends very abruptly too on "'Twas Beauty killed the beast." Fade to black. The end.
an RKO picture.
Yes. That's right. Don't forget to stop by the bellhop and get your coat. But that's
Pick up your
pretty
cigarettes
much...
and your daughter from your cigarette room.
That's right. The cigarette playpen. But yeah, the old King Kongarino. I guess the New York. Again, I like the city destruction stuff. He's more sympathetic. He's just looking for Anne. Like, he'll pick up a blonde lady, which is funny, and then if it's not her, he'll just kind of toss her to the side.
Lady. Get out of here.
Yeah. But in the original, he's got like an oral fixation. He just like picks people up, puts them in his mouth, takes them out, throws them. Like, he eats a lot. He doesn't eat them. He just bites them and then throws them. Yeah. He's a little bit more evil in the OG.
Please don't bite me, King Kong.
His plan, I'll get as high as I can, and then I'll throw Anne back to Skull Island, and then I'll make my way over there.
Yeah, I don't know what his plan
I don't know
was.
what his plan is. Yeah.
Even they said, why did he climb up there? He just corner himself. He's a dumb animal. He doesn't know nothing.
He's a moron.
Well, he looks at the sunset, and that's kind of mirroring when he's looked at the sunset on Skull Island.
Here.
Sunrise. Yeah. Oh, I just love to watch the sunrise. Ooh,
beautiful.
I want to go back to my island. I don't belong here in the big city.
That's my son Skronkus.
Yeah.
Well, here's something to note, because Colin said there's no payoff. In the video game, there's a way to unlock a special ending where you, as Jack Driscoll, commandeer the biplanes, shoot down the other biplanes, save Kong, and then you return him to Skull Island.
That's
really,
Mike. That's the most unhinged thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's awesome.
That's how this movie should have ended.
Cut that ending into this movie, and you're good to go.
Here you have the planes shoot down Kong. Anne kind of reacts to him dying, and then Jack Driscoll is just there on top of the Empire State Building, and then they kind of embrace, and that's kind of how it ends with she's like, "Well, Kong died, but at least I have Jack Driscoll."
See, I would cut out the hug.
Right? Yeah.
I would just have the shot, reverse shot, and leave it ambiguous.
Yeah.
But
kind of the way it is, it's kind of like, oh, she like immediately is like, oh well, Kong's dead. Like, I don't really care that much.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
it's hard as an audience. It leaves you feeling that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially after the 3 hours.
Kind of anticlimactic.
Return of the King, you're like, all right, this is wrapped up.
Yeah.
But
when those guys are jumping on Frodo's bed, I'm hooting, I'm hollering.
Yeah.
What's your name, Legolas?
Legolas shows up. He's like, I don't remember who you are, but happy to see you.
Absolutely. But
but I think endings might be a thing with Peter Jackson, because remember, Return of the King, there's like 5 different endings. It just keeps going, and then Sam's writing the book, and then Bilbo's going off into the Grey Lands, and so it's like Frodo. It just keeps going and going.
That's the problem too with Fright Night or Frighteners endings, where literally Michael J. Fox says, "I can't handle it anymore, Gandalf. We have to get on a boat together." You're like, what? This is so strange.
My ghost hunting business is going under. Jake Busey has been just too devastating for me. But you know, love the Frighteners.
But that's King Kong.
That's King Kong. So
2005.
yeah, I guess we'll get to final thoughts later. But first, I'd like to ask you guys a few questions about this giant ape. What do you know about it? I got the King quiz. The end of the Planet of the Apes Fest. You quizzed it up, you maniac series.
Quiz Island.
Return to Quiz Island right after this.
We're back here on Normies Like Us. It's the last quiz of our last ape-based material. We're doing our bonus episode. We're doing Peter Jackson's King Kong. And Mike has taken us through all these quizzes. We've blown them up, you maniacs. We've been beneath the planet of the quizzes. We've risen. We've... what are those other new ones called? We've warred, we've dawned, and of course we've kingdomed. Yeah.
King Kong. The King
Peter
Kong.
Jackson's King Quiz. Yes.
The King Quiz, the King of Quiz Island. We're out here once again. I have various questions and fun fact trivias. True and false as usual. So we ask the question. We hold up fingers. One is true, two is false, and I will be keeping score.
Who would win in a fight, Caesar or Kong? Probably Kong, right?
So small.
I think so.
Yeah. Small. But what if Caesar had 2 machine guns that he was dual wielding?
I just want to say real quick, I was talking to a recent listener of this podcast. Shout out to Reese. The first thing he saw me when he said was, by the way, I agree with you. It would take more than one bullet to kill a gorilla if it was shot in the head. And I said, thank you. The guys did not think that at all.
Depends on the caliber.
In the head, I don't know. You at least have some brain damage.
They're so thick. They've got so many muscles.
I don't know their skull density either.
Depends on the caliber of the gun. If it's a 9mm pistol, then maybe it would take more than one shot. I'll give you that.
True.
If it's a Desert Eagle or something, I think one shot.
Caesar with 2 machine guns could kill. Yes, that
on a horseback. Yeah.
Give him a horse
or
50 bullets. He'd probably have a chance.
Nova.
Nova. I like when Kong just picks up Ann and says Nova. Yeah.
We call them all Nova.
That's
we
right.
don't know what.
She's Blue Eyes in this scenario, technically.
Yeah, he is.
But anyway, I'm ready to start this quiz. You guys ready to fire it up? I got questions. Hopefully you got answers. So, question number 1. The creation of the CGI Empire State Building for this film took longer to make digitally than it took to make in real life. True or false? Constructing a digital Empire State Building took longer to do in a computer for this movie than it took in real life to build.
I'm locked on.
All right.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, reveal.
False.
I'm gonna say true. That seems so specific.
Yes, and it is true. It took.
I feel like the Empire
months.
State Building took so long to make in real life.
No, check this fun fact out. The computer version took them 18 months to finalize. The real life version was finished in 14 months.
But how many people died making it versus how many people died making it?
You don't build things in this country anymore, Jacob. We used to make Empire State's buildings in 14 months, but the woke left won't let us kill people and make our buildings anymore.
I thought it was interesting with the New York skyline, obviously no twin towers because it was before the World Trade Centers were built in the 1930s, right? But it was after this movie was made after 9/11. So, but it was
you have the Chrysler Building. They basically did an entire digital New York, and what they did is they got maps of the current layout, and then they got maps of what buildings would have been there in 1933, and then they used their computer to kind of digitally run through and do like Manhattan as where buildings would have existed at that time according to city plan maps and stuff.
Right.
So none of it was filmed in New York. Obviously, it was backlots and stuff. So all the skyline stuff is CG.
Do you remember when 9/11 happened and our president said it was a good thing because now it meant Trump Tower was the tallest building in New York again?
Isn't the Empire? It's taller than the Empire State Building. Trump Tower?
I think the Chrysler Building's taller than it too, technically.
I don't know. Well, he would never lie, so I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah,
it's definitely the most beautiful. Okay. Speaking of visual effects, though, this film had nearly 2,400 visual effects shots, which would have been a record for most ever at the time, if not for Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith, which had 2,500.
What about Lord of the Rings: Return of the King?
We'll get
Ever heard of it?
Ever heard of it?
This has almost as many visual effects shots as Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, which came out the same year. True or false?
I'm locked in.
Oh, okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1, reveal.
I'm gonna say
True.
false.
So this is false again, Colin. Colin's known how to read these. Here's
Look,
the
I
thing.
said Return of the King. Does it have more?
Well, that'll be in a question coming up, and we'll get an
Okay,
answer.
okay.
But Return of the King by itself does not have more. But Star Wars Revenge of the Sith actually has less special effects shots than this movie. This movie set the record for most visual effects shots in a single film at the time with around 2,400.
Wait, I thought that was.
No, I said
Isn't that
Star
what I
Wars
was
had
saying?
more.
He said the opposite.
Oh, well, that's not what I
tricked.
thought I was answering.
Well, I can give you a conditional point if you thought you were saying this had
Don't-
more than Star Wars.
Don't you dare.
I thought you were saying this one had more, and I agreed with that.
Oh,
Well, then you should have said
But I'll take the
false or
loss.
true. I can't
okay.
remember what I said.
My wording is
I don't know.
not perfect either, but yeah. So that's the thing. And now here's a question for you then, Jacob. King Kong has more visual effects shots in it than the entirety of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. True or false?
Hmm. Okay,
Then the
I think
whole trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ready.
Okay,
Right.
I'm locked in.
3, 2, 1, reveal.
That's
False.
got to be false.
You guys are both correct.
Yeah.
It was close though. So this movie had 2,400 shots roughly. Lord of the Rings as a whole has 2,800 ish shots. But
But
this
not
is
that
what's
many
really
more.
crazy. The Fellowship of the Ring has 560. Two Towers has 800. Return of the King has almost 1,500, 1,488.
I felt,
Wow.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what
But
I would
none of them
expect.
over
because-
2,000.
Yeah.
So this is the most visual
Um,
effects heavy movie at that time.
But who would win in a fight, Gollum or King Kong?
Does King Kong have the precious?
So what is your favorite Andy Serkis performance? Is it Caesar, Gollum, or King Kong?
Ooh,
It's probably his role in Black Panther.
lumpy.
What's his
Lumpy.
name? Claw. It's
Claw.
Claw. That's
It's
right.
Claw.
Yeah.
Or it's
Claw.
it's prisoner guy in Andor.
Yeah.
Kino Lowell?
Can't swim. Kino Lowell.
Kino Loy? Kino Loy?
Kino Loy.
Yeah,
I
all
can't
right.
swim.
Yeah.
Um,
Caesar for me, easily.
Caesar.
Gotta be Caesar. Either Caesar or Kroll in Venom 3, The Last
Oh,
Dance.
forgot about Crawl. You're
No.
Noel. You forgot about Noel,
Kroll.
dude.
It's probably
Kroll.
Caesar or Kroll if I had to choose.
But it's
Kroll.
gotta be Caesar.
It's probably Kroll.
all right.
I love Gollum. I don't know, guys, but okay.
Gollum's great, but Caesar's my boy. Come on.
Caesar's king, bro. Anyway.
He's King
Speaking
Kong.
of King Kong, the King Kong remake by Peter Jackson was actually in development before the Lord of the Rings films. True or false?
I'm ready.
All
I'm
right.
locked in.
3, 2, 1,
Locked.
reveal.
False.
It's true, Jacob. So here's the
I
story.
might have known that already. Yeah, because I think
So
it was
in
being
the-
developed in the 90s. Yeah,
Correct. Yeah, in 1996, he was offered 2 remakes of classic horror movies. One of them was going to be Creature from the Black Lagoon. The other was King Kong. He was like, well, yeah, King Kong, let me do that. And then they were working on it, and they canceled it in 1998 because Mighty Joe Young and Godzilla came out, and they're like, another monster thing? I think we're tapped out. So they put
Right.
it on pause.
Both pretty good movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they basically had all these sculpts and stuff. They were pre-vising and stuff, and they were still in the workshop for Lord of the Rings. So while he's working on Lord of the Rings, he's being haunted by these King Kong sculpts that he like, will I get to finish it?
Wow.
So
I'm
like,
glad
he did.
that he waited until 2005 because he probably learned so much making Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
First of all, effects got better than they were in the 90s, and so yeah, I think this was the right time to make this movie.
Well, he learned how to scale stuff, Jacob. How to put a little hobbit
Right.
in front of a big, tall Gandalf, and then he's like, I can put a big monkey in the background of a little person.
A little,
Right.
yeah, Andaro. So I think you're right. The timeline was correct, and they basically greenlit it in between Two Towers and Return of the King because they're like, oh damn, this guy is cooking. Give him whatever he wants.
Yeah. Right.
So cool. Number 5. Peter Jackson announced sequels to the film named King Kong, Son of Kong, and King Kong Into the Wolf's Lair on a web diary, claiming that they would be made under a new company called Big Primate Productions. So in a web diary, he made the announcement of sequels and a new company, Big Primate Productions. True or false?
Primate Productions. I'm locked in.
I'm locked in.
All right, 3, 2, 1, reveal.
No.
True.
Jacob
It's very
Klondike.
specific.
It's
Very
true.
specific
Wow.
sounding. It must be true.
It's true, and this is very timely as well because as of listeners getting this, it's April Fool's Day, and this was an April Fool's prank that Peter Jackson did. He put out a blog saying all this crazy stuff. One of the
Wow.
pitches was that they would have the protagonist riding on Son of Kong's back with machine guns, fighting Adolf Hitler's mutated creatures.
Good.
Wow. I wish
So-
that
And
they
did
made
he sign that diary entry with Ape Roll Fools, as we've been saying it, APE?
April Fools, that's right. Oh wow,
That is
that's very
funny.
good.
I did read something about, and hopefully this doesn't ruin any quiz questions,
fine.
but Adam Wingard, who made some of those Godzilla movies,
Mm-hmm.
said that at one point he was writing a sequel to this King Kong, but then eventually it got canceled in favor of rebooting it with Kong Skull Island instead.
Weird.
So yeah,
How do you do
I don't know
that?
if you read anything about that, but
I did not,
also
and that's not in this quiz. That's interesting to know. Number 6, you're tied up right now, and I didn't even give Jacob a conditional point, so it is 3-3.
wow,
Good.
I should probably get
Um,
like a couple additional points though.
No.
We'll see. So, production had an extremely difficult time sourcing the practical period-accurate cars for the New York City streets in the film.
Mm.
There were needed to be 60 to 70 cars, and it was very hard to find that many period-accurate cars. True or false?
That's a lot of cars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm locked in.
I'm locked in.
All right, 3, 2, 1, reveal.
I'll say
False.
true.
Colin, you got that one. It's false.
Colin's
As
the
a-
naysayer. I think everything's true, but
That's right.
I'm an optimist, you know?
Well, not in this climate, but it turns out these cars, the style of car is like really popular with collectors in New Zealand, and they just found them no problem. It's like we got
Sure.
all the old cars in New Zealand for this, and all the horses in New Zealand for Lord of the Rings.
What if they needed to like destroy a car like the taxi that Kong destroys or whatever?
They
Better
probably-
not.
Well, production will buy it outright from an owner, and they'll
Right.
be like, "Sorry, we're going to destroy it."
On me car.
I hope they don't destroy
I
it.
can't do a
Yeah.
New Zealand accent. Trying to buy me
It's
car.
Lord of the
No, I
Rings. I can only do it to say Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Lord of the
And they
Rings
lent
isn't-
all those cars
Rings.
to George Miller to make Fury Road.
Fury
You're as
Road.
crazy as that other director. Mad George, we call him.
That's right. I want to do Fury Road, but set in the Dust Bowl. The Great Depression. Here's another question. Rick Baker
Ready.
turned down a cameo opportunity due to a scheduling conflict while working on The Ring 2 and X-Men Last Stand.
Oh boy.
True or false?
I might know this already.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
3,
Locked
2,
in.
1, reveal.
Sounds
False.
believable.
It's
Oh,
false.
Because I unfortunately did know this, that Rick Baker and Peter Jackson have cameos as the plane that shoots down King Kong. They're in the plane that shoots him down.
oh,
Yes.
So I'm sorry, I unfortunately did know
No.
that.
great.
That's okay. Yeah, well, Peach always has a cameo in all of his movies, and that was him and Rick Baker shaved their iconic beards and got in the
Wow.
pilot gear, so they're hard to
I'm
recognize.
gonna Google that as pictures. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cameos, I think, of random industry people and collaborators. I don't have the full list, but a lot of those pilots are like cameos to like the homies.
That's
Wow.
cool.
Because
That's neat.
Baker did
Rick
work
Baker, of
on
course-
Kong in '76.
Right, he worked on the 76 version. Legendary Rick Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he
So
worked
there
on
we go.
Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, our favorite ape movie.
That's right. So a lot of DNA getting crossed over between the series we've been doing. Number 8. Jack Black did not have to audition for the role of Carl Denham. True or
Oh
false?
boy.
I'm locked in.
It's a tie game right now. 3, 2,
Locked
1.
in.
Reveal.
False.
It's true. Jacob got it.
Offer only.
I might have known
Yeah.
this too, that I think all the three leads, they were all the first choice to play it, like Naomi Watts,
What?
Adrian Brody, and Jack
Mm.
Black.
The wrong choice to play, you mean?
No,
Yeah.
I like them. I like them.
Jack Black was a fan of Lord of the Rings and he wanted to work with Peter Jackson, but he figured I'll never get to. Who am I? And then Peter Jackson hit him up and was like, "Yo, you want to be in this movie?" He's like, "Yes, I will do it." So there you go. Here's another question. I have one, two, three, four more questions. Jacob is in the lead by one. Several props from the 1933 original make their way into the film. True or false?
Okay. I'm locked
All
in.
right. 3,
Locked
2,
in.
1, reveal.
I'll say true.
Yes, you guys both get points.
The map, I assume, Mike.
I don't think it's the map.
Yeah.
What I have here, because Peach is a big fan, so he's collected. There's some of the spears on the wall on the ship. There's like a shield in the Venture, and some of the drums in the sacrifice scene are from the original. So there you go.
Do you like the name The Venture for the ship?
I think it's fine. I think it's a classic ship name in cinema, the Venture. Yeah, I like it.
Adventure, basically. I like that.
Yeah, I like the Venture. Yeah. Here's a fun fact that's not in the quiz. They bought the Venture. It was an old tuna boat, but it wasn't licensed in New Zealand. So it had like 30,000 pounds of tuna. But because it wasn't licensed, they couldn't get rid of the tuna. The guy wanted to sell the ship, so they had to basically talk to the government and say, "Look, we're making King Kong. Can you give this guy like a provisional thing to let him pack it here and ship it somewhere else?" So they had to do this whole thing with 30,000 pounds of tuna. And as they said in Godzilla, that's a lot of fish.
Do you know how many jobs I've brought to New Zealand through tourism and just like all this other stuff? You will
that's
bend
why
to me.
Yeah.
Government.
Well, that they didn't. That's why the Hobbit bill was a big deal when those movies were being made. But that's another thing. We talked about that in that episode. So go back.
Industry.
Yeah, you can watch a whole YouTube video about it.
Lord of
Lindsay
the Rings
Ellis.
probably does contribute to 25% of tourism, at least in New Zealand, right?
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
at
My
least.
dad went to New Zealand recently, and they did do the Hobbiton. That's a must stop if you're going to New Zealand to see Hobbiton, basically.
I want to so bad.
I would love to, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
You know what? You know, I've been trying to give tickets away for the Lumpy tour, though.
The Lumpy
it's a
tour.
course meal, the brains and walnut sauce.
Yeah, what you have to eat is disgusting. Then you sleep in a cage too. It's horrible.
What's a girl got to do to get some breakfast around here? Am I right?
Yeah.
What's a girl got to do to get some breakfast around here?
Oh, by the way,
least
that
at
is so
this
cute
school.
when she's like wearing wardrobe to try to impress Jack Driscoll. Like that's so sweet.
How's that,
I
the
like
ladies?
that. Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got a number 10 for you. 3 more.
Do you think this film would have been better if like The Artist, it was just a silent movie?
No. The soundtrack's pretty good.
Right. James Newton Howard.
3 hours of
Yeah.
this silent? No.
No, you couldn't do 3 hours. You'd lose
What if
your
it
mind.
was silent and then they had to include the dialogue cards? This thing would be like 5.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But if you just do it an hour and a half and do the campiest moments, I think this movie becomes 100%. I think people would have maybe even given it Best Picture.
Dang. Okay. Interesting. I'm going to throw to number 10. A giant mechanical hand for Kong was built to interact with Naomi Watts, but was never used in the film. True or false?
Locked in?
All right, I'm locked in.
3, 2, 1, reveal.
I'll say false.
False. Jacob got it. They didn't do it. They didn't build a hand. They were doing full computer. Should have.
See, I thought maybe they did build a hand and they did use it.
See, that was my trick. I see. There was no hand at all. That's sleight of hand.
Jacob's like, I know, Mike. It was feet.
Right. I do have a style, I guess, at this point of my true and falsing. 2 more questions. Jacob's up by 2.
Let's go.
Oh my gosh,
I'm going to win this thing.
All right. The crew practiced handling an actual vintage camera to prepare for their role as period filmmakers. They even went as far as to shoot some silent films on that camera.
I've got my Bolex here.
Right.
All right, I'm locked in.
Locked in?
All right. 3, 2, 1, reveal.
True.
True.
Both get a point. It is true. Fun fact here is they trained on a Bell and Howell camera that, according to the behind the scenes, they busted out. They said this was the original camera that William Fox purchased to start 20th Century Fox. back in the day.
Oh,
And so it's a
interesting.
hand crank camera. It's 3 cranks per second to get the correct frame rate. And so they trained on that,
Right.
Jack Black and those guys.
That's what I love about this camera. Yeah, that you hand crank it, and so the speed that you're cranking it, you have to go a certain speed because if you go slower or faster, the film will be slower or faster because you're exposing the film as you crank it. And then eventually they came up with like battery powered things and like the Bolex, which I think uses like a battery to
Well, you've
or
actually
you
had
can
wind-up
wind up
mechanisms,
yeah, you have the
too.
wind up mechanisms as well. Yeah.
Yep. But I just think it's cool that, yeah, so when Jack Black's doing it, he has the right cadence and like they at least trained to do that. And I
Yeah,
think
that's
it's
awesome.
cool that it's the same camera from Fox because that's what the Apes was. Like we're really coming full circle with all the
Right.
technology on this thing.
That's
And I like that this camera
yeah.
had like 4 lenses on it that you could just rotate the thing and use different lenses. That probably was pretty useful back in the day.
Yeah, especially
Instead of
on
taking off
location.
lenses and putting on different lenses and stuff like that.
Yep, that was very cool.
I like when they're like, oh yeah, we could probably use the wide lens. Will probably work for this when after he sees King Kong. Yeah.
Yes, we need to shoot it wide. Absolutely. I have my final question, and so we're just going to do it. There was a public push for Andy Serkis to be nominated for an Oscar due to his performance as Kong. True or false?
Wow.
Was Kong
Locked in.
Oscar worthy?
I'm locked in.
3, 2, 1, reveal.
Say
I went
false.
on that. That didn't come around till our boy Caesar, in my recollection.
I think Gollum would be more Oscar worthy than King Kong.
According to my researches, they did it for Gollum and King Kong, and they've since also done it for Caesar. Give this man a digital performance Oscar.
Caesar, I think,
hardware.
Yeah, Caesar deserves it. I don't know about King Kong.
Well, they've been calling for it since Gollum, so we love Andy Serkis being a digital guy.
Right.
But with that, with a score of 8,
they gave it to him for Noel.
They gave it for directing Venom 2.
Wow.
Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah, they said it was the first director/actor in a sequel award to and Noel.
First director and actor in a sequel
What's
to
funny
a
is he didn't direct
award.
part 3. He didn't direct The Last Dance. He just appeared as Null in like 2 scenes.
Incredible. Well, the
great
Sunnyverse
movie.
is dead, and we're grateful for it.
I'm not going to forget you, buddy.
Fair.
Eddie, I won't forget you. That's what
Tom
Hardy says.
Nice. All right. Well,
I won't forget you.
8-6. It is
wow.
Jacob is the king of quiz.
I won.
Yeah.
But did you keep track of all our ape quizzes and have a final total of who won more?
I don't have that today, but I can have it at the next Watch in 2 episodes.
Yeah, one day. One day we will.
Yeah,
we'll take it.
All right, I would like to see maybe we tied exactly. I don't know if it's an even number of.
I know through I think up through the original films, it was pretty much ties.
Wow.
But the new sequels, I don't remember. But we'll find out. But before we do that, we'll find out what our final thoughts were right after this, King Kong.
We're back here on Normies Like Us. We're wrapping up our thoughts. We're going to talk about our final thoughts here on our entire 8th series, although we're going to wait to do our rankings till our next Watch. We're also going to be talking about what we're doing for our next episode. We're going to talk about what we're doing for our next long-form series. Got a lot to get out here, but of course, also our final thoughts on Peter Jackson's King Kong as well. A film I didn't super love. I said I've never super loved, but I did enjoy talking about it a little more with you guys. That actually brought it up for me, I think.
All right, that's good to hear. This is one that I said I think there is a good movie within it. And it's one that I am thinking of, like I want to fan edit this to do a crack at it. And it's just interesting that we're recording this on the day that Godzilla vs. Kong came out, which is the only other movie I've actually done a fan edit for. It's something about Kong movies that need to be edited.
You're going to take all the Millie Bobby Brown scenes out of that one and put them in this film,
because Kyle Chandler's the link. That's how I can get away with it.
Okay.
And then
Dad, why are you always pretending to be an actor?
Basically, I'm taking Jimmy and Mr. Hayes out and putting Millie Bobby Brown and Bell Snickle in.
Bell Snickle.
You always call him Bell Snickle.
What if Millie Bobby Brown played Jimmy?
Well, that
on the boat.
We found her. She's got an animal in her. It's the most boring actress.
No, we found her. She was bald. Yeah. She's got powers. I don't get it.
She's
Yep.
special.
She's special.
Her only good role is 11 from Stranger Things,
She
right?
gets that
Yeah.
nosebleed when she points at Kong.
She
Look,
could've stopped him.
sometimes a child actress or actor grows up and they're not as good as they
Yeah,
were when
they
they were
just
a
don't
kid.
have it.
Right.
They can't all be Haley Joel Osment, you know.
Yeah, that's the standard.
Wow.
But yeah, I think this movie, I'm pretty positive on it. I mean, it's a first of all, it's a movie about filmmaking, which I love.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Maybe not everyone loves, there's a lot of movies that are about movies, and sometimes people get tired of that, but I like it.
Do you like, Jacob, like a Singing in the Rain, which is an
Yeah,
industry
love
insider
Singing
that's
in the
like a
Rain.
screwball period, like, hey, hachi machi, what do we gotta zip zam zibbida
The
doo,
talkies
like,
are coming out. Yeah,
yeah.
We got
You
a
like all
scram.
that?
love Singing in the Rain. Great movie. Um, about the advancement of sound in movies and the talkies overtaking the silent pictures.
Hmm.
And yeah, any movie about the inside, baseball of filmmaking is something right up my alley. Not everyone obviously likes it as much as maybe we do because we all, have backgrounds in filmmaking and love the industry and love the artistry of filmmaking. So this is very
Mhm.
much a movie about filmmaking, obviously with the Carl Denham character. Um, and I just like that it's sort of like an old school Hollywood epic where it is everything's big. It's 3 hour plus runtime. Um, and it's, Peter Jackson coming off the highest of highs and being like, what do I want to make next? Let's make a huge King Kong epic. And I think for the most part, it does work. I would definitely tighten it up a little bit at parts, but overall, I'm pretty positive about it.
Yeah. Again, I would want to get it like under 2 hours, maybe. Um, I think that's the best version from pacing standpoint. I think that's what it would do for me anyway.
Yeah,
But I like it again. I had all this. I watched 4 hours of special features just for this episode, and I watched the original. So I mean, like, yeah, I like this movie.
That's
Um,
crazy.
and considering we're doing a retrospective on the apes, and like we're kind of doing a little bit of like the history of cinema, and this is like a love letter to one of the
yeah,
classics. So it ties in thematically to what
absolutely.
we've been doing.
It
And
feels
I
so
love that.
weird now when the Bettermans and the Wickeds and all the jokes we made this year about all the ape-based content. I do kind of feel like, well, don't they know that's for me? Like, don't they know that's my genre? Like, I kind of have to. I feel like I have to weigh in when I see these
Yeah.
ape-based movies now. So it,
Well,
it
don't you
has
think that
been very fun.
humanity has always been obsessed with apes because they're animals, but they're like the
Mhm.
closest animals to us? Like they're our
Mhm.
closest relative within the animal kingdom. So we've
So
always
true.
been sort of fascinated by them because they're so human-like at times, but they're also animals.
Georgie's birthday or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
Georgie's home. Gordy's
Georgie's
home.
home. Yes.
Gordy's Home.
Gordy. Yeah.
Great movie. Nope. Um, we also didn't really talk about, well, of course, the big negative for me, like thing I dislike the most about this movie is the natives, the portrayal of the natives of Skull
Hmm.
Island doesn't hold up at all. Even for 2005, it was like questionable.
Hmm.
Uh, but I also didn't mention sort of the racial connotations of King Kong himself, right?
And this is where I
Which is
like the changes because the original movie, I think I know where you're going. Yeah, it has
yeah,
issues with this. So go ahead.
Well, there's that famous scene in Inglourious Bastards, right, where they play the movie guessing game, and he says, "If we're talking about slaves brought over on a boat, are we talking about the film King Kong?"
right. Of course, you have this giant ape. Black people historically have been compared to apes or monkeys at times by racists and things like that. So,
Mm.
and then you have this wild ape that's obsessed with this beautiful blonde white lady and
In
stuff like that
chains
in
on a
Right.
chains.
boat.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
there was a I don't know if you guys ever seen. There's a Vogue cover where it was LeBron James and Giselle Bundchen, um, where it was the photo. It was controversial because it was basically based on a King Kong image.
Mm.
I'll send you guys this in our chat after the
Was
episode,
it
but
was it Annie Leibovitz? Because she quite often blows that and does
it
like
might have
a
been it
girl.
might have
Don't you
been
realize this is racist?
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
but
for
that's
their body issue, like the best bodies or whatever,
Yeah,
hmm.
and it
sure.
was LeBron with Giselle like in his arm, and he's like making like a screaming face, and
Oh boy.
I'll show you the picture afterwards. It's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
insane.
But
And
that's
this
the
was in the
thing.
2000s again.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
But like, the original King Kong, like before I like went to film school and fully developed my brain, I was like, oh, it's a cool ape movie. But then like learning about kind of the implications of, yeah, like monster from foreign land on boat, obsessed with our white women, must be stopped at any
Yeah.
cost. It has a really unfortunate like racial overtone, and didn't like the movie once I learned about that. So I like that
Right.
Peter Jackson at least tries to correct some of that with his telling of
Yeah.
the
And
tale.
I think Peter Jackson has his own issues with certain things. Again, like going back to like the orcs and the
Mm,
Uruk-hai and Lord of the Rings versus how the natives are portrayed. Like there's some questionable things, but yeah, with the original 1933, it's like, yeah, it's a product of its time. So you always have to keep that in mind, like with historical things like that. But
yeah.
um,
That was the most
it's
frustrating
worth
part of my
mentioning. Yeah,
rewatch of the original. It's like you can't
yeah,
help but notice that kind of theming, and it's a
Yep.
little bit of a
yeah.
product
And
of its
obviously,
time,
we're not
unfortunately.
experts to talk on this three white guys. But
No,
Right.
no, certainly not. And I'm also not equipped to say that I would watch this 5 times over Rings of Power, but I would.
Hmm. And yeah, I think there's been other themes too of like class equality, racial equality in the other apes movies. Like it's theming that comes up often, and obviously, you know,
yeah,
give free rights
but
to everybody, right?
Yeah.
That kind of
yeah,
thing.
we don't like any of that stuff. Like we're good people over here on the Normies Like Us podcast.
That's right.
Um, but
Prove it.
Peter,
Where was
to speak
Caesar?
about, we love Caesar. We would never say
No,
anything bad about
take
him.
his rights away.
Um, Peter Jackson's filmography is interesting, of course, because he has Lord of the Rings. This maybe is his last good movie in terms of like what he's done since, other than the Beatles documentary, which I am a big fan of. But in terms of
Mm,
narrative film, obviously he has The Lovely Bones
Very
after
good film.
this. And
hmm
he, of course, has the Hobbit trilogy, which he didn't even really want to make, but kind of got
Mhm.
forced into directing.
hmm
Um,
Do you
and he
like
hasn't
the
done that much
World War
since.
One
Yeah,
documentaries that
World
were
War One
about?
documentaries and Beatles documentaries. He's kind of stayed away from narrative film, but The Lovely Bones, not a great movie either. Obviously, an adaptation of a,
How dare you?
YA novel about a serial
How's your favorite
killer.
actor? Marky
Yeah,
Mark.
yeah. What
I
Stanley Tucci?
No, I had a note here when I was watching this because I do think it's very bloated, even though I like it. I'm like, oh man, the Hobbit movies was his punishment, his cosmic punishment for the hubris he had in doing this
Yeah,
three, and
What you deserve.
he got what he
but the
deserved,
way
Uh,
the
unfortunately.
way we think about this movie now, you would think it was a box office disappointment, but again, it did
no.
make its money back and more. It was a success at the box office, but it feels almost now like it was like it shouldn't have been a box office success. Like I'm not sure how it made money, but it did.
I don't think
Um,
modern audiences have the patience or would have had the patience, like would have
No.
patience to go to
no,
see this now. No way.
No, but it wasn't streaming, so I knew people who would go twice. I mean,
yeah.
Hmm.
Again, I liked it enough to buy the DVD at one point, and I still like it. I don't like it as much as Lord of the Rings, obviously, but I like the scale of it. I like the old school Hollywood epicness of it, and it is a love letter to that era of films, and I like that.
He was trying to give people in 2005 the sense of adventure and wonder and awe that people in 1933 experienced when they first went to Skull Island and had these, stop motion puppets, and it was cutting edge special effects. He wanted to kind of give that feeling, and I think he succeeds in creating that spectacle. It's
Yeah,
too long, in my opinion.
yeah.
Yeah. But I'm glad we did all the ape stuff, and like as this is a kind of a bookend. I love a bookend, uh,
Yeah.
to all the Apes movies with Caesar and Andy Serkis, I think is a fitting final one to watch.
Yeah, I'm glad we watched it. I'm glad I revisited it because I hadn't seen it in so long. And of course, we talked about Lord of the Rings in our long form series before, so it makes sense to go back to old Peter Jackson himself, PJ, as I like to
Hmm.
call him.
We love Peach.
now we talked a little bit about differences between this film and the sort of more recent attempt at a Kong Skull Island. Kong
Yes.
Skull Island, a film people call kind of a live action Miyazaki movie. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that.
Oh, about
Hmm.
Skull
I've
Island?
not heard that.
Mhm.
My Neighbor King
Um,
Kongaro.
I've never heard that, but well, of course, we've ended the Year of Apes. Did
The
we
Age of
start? It was
Apes
our
has
first
come
ape.
to a
Was like
close.
last April was our first ape
We
episode.
kicked it off in April.
It
Yep.
was a
So it's
stupid
been
pun. That's
literally
why
a
we did it.
full year.
Cool
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And we're heading into April now. We're ending March with this last one. So of course we're closing the book on our apes, and we're starting a new monthly long form series. Now we had a lot of discussions about what to do next, what franchise, what could we talk about. We've
Heated
already done, of
discussions
course.
too. It got ugly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Screaming match.
hmm
we've done so many before. We should do like maybe like a March Madness poll or something next year. But
Hey, but we
we've done
finally
Star
come
Wars.
to yeah.
Yeah, we've
Well,
done Lord
before
of the
you
Rings. We've done Star Trek. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I just want to say,
we've done Pirates.
we have done Pirates, Harry Potter.
Transformers.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
don't
right.
remind
Oh
me.
man.
But we're kind of saying, we are fans of cinema, the art of cinema, art in general, and sort of this is informed by this recent controversy revolving AI and its use in art, and that's kind of part of what we're getting after too. But please,
Yes. So after discussions, we talked about it and we decided on our next long form series it's going to be a little bit different because it's not a franchise, so to speak, but it's actually a filmography of a certain director. And of course, we've been hinting at it, but we're going to be doing the works of legendary Japanese animator Hayao Miyazaki, Studio Ghibli. So we'll be talking about all the films of Miyazaki's filmography, starting with the Castle of Cagliostro, Lupin the Third,
Cagliostro.
all the way to The Boy and the Heron, right?
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Wow.
Now, that is enough films where, again, it's going to take a good chunk of time. We're going to continue our same
Probably another
format,
full
the
year.
last episode of the month, probably a full year. Jacob, will he make it another year? Will we be saying some
Well,
sad thoughts maybe halfway
I hope
through
so.
this series? Okay.
Pretty
Who
healthy
knows? I mean,
habits.
yeah, I think yeah, he's a big smoker, but
Right.
who knows? I mean, he could
Will
live.
Goro have killed him by this point, finally destroying his father and
He's
becoming what his father wanted him to become?
It's possible. Yeah, he's very disappointed in his son. We'll
Goro
talk about
could never
all
kill
about the
me.
man himself. More in depth about the man,
Brings
the
me great shame and dishonor.
Goro.
complicated man himself. There's documentaries about him. Maybe we could even include those or just watch those as
Yes,
extra
yes.
content.
No.
But
Yep.
a fascinating individual, I think, and a fascinating artist. And
Yep.
so much of his filmography is just like works of art to me that like this I get this idea from the Blank Check podcast. You did talk
Who can
about his
say?
filmography at one point. It's possible.
Who can say?
But I recently, like last December, actually December 2023, I did almost a full rewatch of his movies because I was just in the Miyazaki zone. And at the time, I brought it up as an episode idea to do one episode about Miyazaki. And Mike, you had mentioned that you've seen very few of his films, and being the biggest fan of Japanese culture and media
hmm
is sort of a big blind spot for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like even for me recently, I did a Satoshi Kon rewatch, and I just finished Makoto Shinkai's works. But I
Yeah.
never did a full watch on Miyazaki, and it's about damn
So
time.
yeah,
So I'm
Miyazaki,
excited.
perhaps the most beloved
Yeah,
Japanese animator, the Walt Disney of Japan. In many ways, like Totoro is their Mickey, Studio Ghibli is their Disney.
perhaps more beloved than
So
Walt Disney himself.
You
yeah,
wouldn't go to far as say Japanese filmmaker, Jacob. You have Kurosawa above Miyazaki.
ooh, that's
Ooh,
hard. Yeah, I mean Kurosawa is such a influential and legendary filmmaker as well. Um,
that's up for a vote. I mean,
yeah,
Maybe we'll come to terms with it in a year from now. We'll see. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
that's
But I'm
big.
super excited. So we have Mike as a newcomer into a lot of these movies, getting his first impressions. Colin, you and I have seen pretty much most of his filmography, right? So revisiting those movies, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. So stay tuned for that. For the next year or so, we'll be doing the films
All
of
right.
Hayao Miyazaki.
It looks like we have potentially nearly 2 years, or is
2 years.
Is
Well, I
that
think it's like
true?
11.
He has 11 features.
has
Oh, I'm
11
seeing shorts too. I'm
features.
sorry.
Oh, thank
sorry.
Yeah,
God.
there's shorts. I mean,
Jesus
there's other
Christ.
Studio Ghibli offerings that aren't him
I'm
directing
looking
and
at
stuff
his
like that.
directed. That shows
yeah.
what I don't know, and I'm looking forward to learning. But yeah, very
Get
excited about
ready for
that.
Porco. I'm excited for the Porco episode. I'm excited for the
Porco
Kiki
Rosso.
episode.
Go.
Oh,
I have seen
yes.
Kiki.
Princess
I've seen
Mononoke.
Mononoke.
Spirited Away, of course.
Yeah, and stop using the AI to make Studio Ghibli art.
Yeah,
Yes,
knock it
and
off.
this has
Do
really
that.
never been more relevant because we have this big controversy with, AI art, Studio Ghibli style, which would make Miyazaki himself want to blow his brains out. But we'll talk about all of that.
He's not the only artist to have had their style stolen. It's just making the most waves right now. It's not good in any form. So knock it
Yeah, it's
off.
become a trend recently.
Why would you do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also hinted at it during this episode, but next week we'll be taking a visit to the
Back to
Nether.
back. Jack
Oh
Black.
God. Oh,
Jack
God.
Black attack back to back.
This is the movie that's
It's
gonna
a
make me
comeback.
blow my brains out.
Ooh, boy.
Your favorite video game, dude?
It's
do
it's one of the
not
most
go in
influential video
Used to
games
my mom
in my
making jokes
life.
like that.
He's
For
right
sure,
behind
and
me,
I
isn't
think
he?
It's just trampling on all my memories and nostalgia for a beloved video game, Minecraft. But
We've done
yeah.
a Minecraft episode. We're going to talk Jack Black. We're going to talk Aquaman. We're going to talk Napoleon Dynamite. It's a big one. So get
Told you
ready.
guys
We're
we
doing
like
that next
cinema. We like art, and we're going to be reviewing Minecraft.
Yeah. We're doing Minecraft. We're doing Miyazaki. All great art, which is
they're
what
an
we
equal
talk
level.
about here on Normies Like Us.
That's right.
Absolutely. Man. All right. Well, that's all the thoughts I got in my Skull Island.
That's right.
Yeah,
So next week, Minecraft. Stay tuned
unfortunately-
for that. Yep.
Well, when we found Jacob when we did this podcast, his arm was broken in 2 places and he was basically feral. And now we have to return him to Normie Island. So we will
That's
be
right.
leaving now.
I've been reading a lot of Hearts of Darkness and learning a lot about life.
You don't have to spank me anymore. I've been reading.
I learned
Damn
to
it,
read.
Jimmy.
Don't move the goalpost, Mr. Hayes. All right.
Drop those little
But that's,
drawers. And show me that little butt.
Oh,
The
no.
feral over here.
But that's King Kong 2005.
Yep.
King Kong for you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see him again. He will. I think. Isn't the next one? You're cordially invited to the wedding of King Kong and Godzilla. That's the official title for the
Yeah.
third
They
legendary
are best friends.
crossover.
I believe they did announce it. March 26, 2027, supposedly.
Yeah.
Do we have a title?
No. Just
Kong X Godzilla X Kong, best friends forever.
GXK3. No, till
High
death
school
do they part.
reunion. It's about them. It's about their class getting back together. That's so crazy.
Yep. It's the Breakfast Club of Monsters, I think.
Yeah. I think it'll be Kong. I think they'll go the X again. I think it'll be Godzilla X Kong. And then Mike, I think they just do War of the Monsters or Monster Planet or one. They just steal one of those titles.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll probably just make a new monster, though. I don't think Toho's super stoked about giving them any more, especially now that they're making
Bring
Godzilla
back
again.
Skronkus. Bring
Bring
back
back Skronkus, though, yeah. I love Skronkus.
Well, I heard in the next one they're fighting Shin Godzilla. They're fighting the little dudes that make up his body.
They're
His
fighting all those
existence is
little
pain.
dudes and one Kamada-kun. Yeah.
Much
That
like
should be
King
enough.
Kong in this movie, his existence is pain.
Oh,
As
no.
is all of our existences.
As
That's what
it is.
Miyazaki would say.
No.
That's right.
All right.
But we're your normies, and you can catch us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
At Normies _ us on all social media. Rate, review, subscribe for this podcast. It helps out a lot. Let us know what you think about the Miyazaki series coming up and what you thought of the Apes films if you watched along. We definitely want to hear about that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
right.
This has been your host. This is Skull Colin.
Mike Driscoll still love the theater.
And this is King Cobb, the eighth wonder of the world.
Heck yeah. All right. Catch you next time, normies.
Catch you next time.
On the silver
Bye.
screen.
Bye.
Bye.
'Twas beauty that killed the podcast.